Chapter 237. It's true. What's wrong? Ji replied without thinking. Although he didn't know why Qi Ling would ask such a question, he didn't care too much about it. Oh. Qi Ling lowered her head slightly and replied softly. She didn't know why she cared so much about this guy. Is there anything else? Ji asked. Nothing else. With that, Qi Ling turned around and left. She looked calm on the surface, but in reality, she couldn't help but feel a little disappointed. Ji looked at Qi Ling, who was leaving, and couldn't help but feel a little strange. Today, Qi Ling wasn't as unreasonable as usual. After that, Ji continued to cultivate his sword art. Ding! Master has cultivated the clear cloud sword art. Clear cloud sword art obtained experience points. 300 by 999 times. Ding! Master has cultivated the clear cloud sword art. Clear cloud sword art obtained experience points. 300 by 999 times. Ding! Congratulations, Master. The middle profound rank profound skill clear cloud sword art has successfully broken through to the peak of perfection realm. Ding! It has been detected that the clear cloud sword art has reached the perfection stage and has automatically upgraded to the high profound rank profound skill clear light sword art. After nearly a day, GU sword art had successfully advanced to the high profound rank. However, this was not enough. His goal was to raise his sword art to the earth rank. Ding! Master has cultivated the clear light sword art. Clear light sword art obtained experience points. 400 by 999 times. Ding! Master has cultivated the clear light sword art. Clear light sword art obtained experience points. 400 by 999 times. Ding! Congratulations, Master. The high profound rank profound skill clear light sword art has successfully broken through to the peak of perfection realm. Ding! It has been detected that the clear light sword art has reached the perfection stage and has automatically upgraded to the low earth rank profound skill brilliant sun in the sky. Another 2 days passed, and the sword art profound skill had reached the earth rank as he wished. Furthermore, GU found that this low earth rank sword art was not simple. Brilliant sun in the sky had a total of 3 styles. The first style was earth rank lower grade, the second was earth rank middle grade, and the third was earth rank upper grade. If nothing out of the ordinary happened, the next level of the sword skill would be the second and third form of the brilliant sun in the sky. There were only 7 days left until the start of the 3-sex tournament. But for GU, there was still plenty of time. Then, like before, GU went out for a walk to relax. Ding! Master took a step forward. Earth rank low grade, profound skill, lightning luster transformation, gained experience. 600 asterisk 999x. Ding! Master took a step forward. Earth rank low grade, profound skill, lightning luster transformation, gained experience. 600 asterisk 999x. However, just as GU was passing by the alchemy hall, she coincidentally bumped into Elder Zhuang. Greetings, Elder Zhuang. GU greeted her politely. You came at the right time. I was looking for you. Zhuang Mingyan said. What is it? GU asked curiously. You should be familiar with the Alchemist Guild, right? Someone from the main guild came to look for me today and said that they want to invite you to give a lecture. Zhuang Mingyan said. Invite me to give a lecture? GU was slightly taken aback. What was going on now? That's right. But from what I see, the lecture is just a cover. It should be someone from the Alchemist Guild who wants to see you. Zhuang Mingyan said his inner thoughts. It doesn't matter if you accept it or not. If you don't want to accept it, just tell me. If you want to, you can follow me in. That person is inside. GU pondered for a moment and said, I'm sorry, I don't plan to accept it for the time being. Then, he added, at least wait until the 3-sex tournament ends before I can go. GU actually wanted to see what the Alchemist Guild's main guild was like. After all, the Alchemist Guild was one of the 2 giants in the Kanglan Empire. The other was the 1,000 Treasure Pavilion. However, he didn't have the time to run over and give a lecture. The 3-sex tournament was coming, and he had to quickly increase his strength. Okay, I understand. I'll help you tell them. Zhuang Mingyan said. Chapter 238. After chatting with Elder Zhuang for a while, Ji Yu continued to walk. About 10 minutes later, Ji Yu returned to the small forest and prepared to cultivate his Sword Dao true meaning. Ding! Master activated 10% of Sword Dao true meaning. 10% of Sword Dao true meaning. Experience gained. 100 by 999 times. Ding! Master activated 10% of Sword Dao true meaning. 10% of Sword Dao true meaning. Experience gained. 100 by 999 times. Ding! Congratulations to Master for successfully breaking through from the 10% true meaning of Sword Dao to the 20% true meaning of Sword Dao. Ding! Congratulations to Master for successfully breaking through from 20% Sword Dao true meaning to 30% Sword Dao true meaning. Not long after his Sword Dao true meaning reached 30%, Ji Yu suddenly felt that his cultivation base had reached saturation. Since it was time for him to break through, he immediately seized the opportunity and activated the Sky Splitter. Ding! Congratulations, Master. Your martial Dao cultivation base has broken through to the early stage of the 4th level of the Tongxian realm. After a while, Ji Yu broke through to the 4th level of the Tongxian realm. There were only 4 days left before the 3-sex tournament, and he had already completed his cultivation base goal. In the next 4 days, Ji Yu planned to use it to improve his Sword Dao true meaning. Ding! Congratulations, Master. Your Sword Dao true meaning has broken through to 40% Sword Dao true meaning. Ding! Congratulations, Master. Your Sword Dao true meaning has broken through to 50% Sword Dao true meaning. In 4 days, his Sword Dao true meaning had reached 50%. During this period, Ji Yu did not know anything that happened in the outside world, and he was too lazy to find out about it. The 3-sex tournament would begin the next day. The venue was the Kanglan Empire Academy. Since the academy was the champion of the previous 3-sex tournament, it was the host of this year's 3-sex tournament. On the second day, all the Qianyuan Martial Mansion students who were preparing to participate in the 3-sex tournament gathered outside the mansion. Other than the 10 course students, including Ji Yu, there were also many inter-mansion students. There were about 100 of them. Leading the team were 2 elders. One was the martial arts Grand Elder, Elder Zheng, while the other was the Sword Dao Grand Elder, Elder Fu. As for Jiang Yuechu and Jiang Yuexin, they had been cultivating with Murong Manor Head and did not participate in the 3-sex tournament. When everyone was present, they set off. Riding on a high-quality Hummer, they arrived at the Kanglan Empire Academy in no time. When Ji Yu came to the Kanglan Empire Academy for the first time, she found that it was totally different from the Qianyuan Martial House. The Qianyuan Martial House had an antique feel to it, but the Kanglan Empire Academy was completely different. To be more precise, it was the difference between the buildings and the environment. The Qianyuan Martial House was built in the woods, and the building materials were all kinds of wood. The Kanglan Empire Academy was built in the most prosperous area of King City. The buildings were tall, and the lake had a unique style. Other things aside, the Kanglan Empire Academy was much richer than the Qianyuan Martial House and the Qingxin sect. At the same time, the ordinary people who came to watch the 3-sex tournament noticed the people from the Qianyuan Martial House. These people's clothes, they are from the Qianyuan Martial House. They are indeed from the Qianyuan Martial House. The one walking in front should be the self-proclaimed prodigy, Ji Yu, right? What prodigy? She's just a coward. She hid in the Qianyuan Martial House for so long before coming out. Yeah, how dare a coward call herself a prodigy? What a joke. When the passers-by saw Ji Yu, they all looked at her with disdain. They despised cowards like her the most. However, Ji Yu was too lazy to care about these people. She calmly walked forward as if she didn't hear anything. The students of the Martial House wanted to defend Ji Yu. Ji Yu defeated the Kanglan Empire Academy's #1 prodigy with 1 strike. How could she be a coward in front of these people? But in the end, they suppressed their anger. After all, the Martial House Master had ordered them not to reveal what happened that day when the Kanglan Empire Academy came. How could they dare to go against the Martial House Master's order? Chapter 239. Not long after Jiyu's group arrived, the Qingxian sect arrived as well. As for the host, the Kanglan Empire Academy, it was needless to say. At this moment, they had already arrived at the venue of the Three Sects tournament. There was a huge silver halo in the middle, and the people from the Kanglan Empire sat on the high platform around it. Jiyu's group was also on the high platform, sitting beside the people from the Qingxian sect. Many people were looking at Jiyu. After all, he had caused a huge commotion in the Kanglan Empire recently, including the people from the Qingxian sect and the Kanglan Empire Academy. All of them were looking at Jiyu. However, unlike the others, the people from the Qingxian sect were looking at Jiyu with vigilance, and the people from the Kanglan Empire Academy were even more afraid and nervous, especially the students from the Kanglan Empire Academy who had visited the Qianyuan martial house. The scene of Senior Gao being killed in one strike was still vivid in their minds. It was as if it had become a nightmare in their hearts, and they would never forget it. Looking at Gao Junjie, he had lost his previous arrogance. He didn't have the slightest bit of courage to face Jiyu. On the other side, the big shots from the other forces on the high platform were communicating telepathically with Jiyu as their target. Looks like this is the famous Jiyu. At first glance, this old man felt that this young man wasn't simple. Old man, do you even need to say that? Just based on the fact that he was able to show off in the entrance exam and the alchemy conference, he's definitely not a simple guy. Since he dares to call himself a heavenly talent, he should have some skills. I'm very curious if this young man can still stand out in this Three Sects tournament, although I don't know why he hasn't shown up yet. These were two different things. Even the big shots from the various major forces couldn't understand why Jiyu hid in the Qianyuan martial house and didn't come out. Not only that, but even the Alchemist Guild and the Wanbao Pavilion were present. At the location of the Alchemist Guild, among them, a gray-robed old man whose face could not be seen clearly looked at Jiyu and said, "Yu Shuyun, is this young man the Jiyu that you have always been worried about?" That's right. Sitting beside the gray-robed elder was Yu Shuyun. She nodded without hesitation. She didn't really understand what it meant to like someone. She only knew that Jiyu was the only person of the opposite sex she had such feelings for. Unlike other women, she dared to love and hate. If he liked her, he liked her. If he didn't like her, he didn't like her. There was nothing to hide. Compared to the results of the three-sect grand competition, this old man is more curious about what level this young man's attainments in alchemy have reached. The gray-robed old man said slowly, "It's been 2 months since the alchemy conference. With this young man's talent in alchemy, he might have already reached the level of a 4th-grade alchemist. From Jiyu's performance in the alchemy conference, he could estimate that Jiyu's alchemy level at that time was around the middle or upper 3rd grade. Now that 2 months had passed, although it was a little unbelievable, it was not impossible for her to reach the level of a 4th-grade alchemist. This disciple thinks that Jiyu's alchemy attainments have definitely reached the level of 4th grade or above." Yu Shuyun said with incomparable certainty. "Oh," the gray-robed old man asked with interest, "you have so much confidence in him?" "Yes, because this is an absolute thing," Yu Shuyun replied. "When the time comes, no matter what this old man says, I'll have to invite him to our guild for a visit," the gray-robed old man said with a smile. After hearing Yu Shuyun's words, he was even more curious about what level Jiyu's alchemy attainments had reached. Although Yu Shuyun didn't say anything, there was a hint of undetectable joy in her beautiful eyes. Now that the three-sect grand competition was about to begin, she didn't want to disturb Jiyu, so she didn't plan to interact with Jiyu. When Jiyu arrived at the Alchemist Guild, she would be able to properly meet with Jiyu. Unfortunately, they all guessed wrong. Jiyu had already become a 5th-grade alchemist and was not far from becoming a 6th-grade alchemist. Chapter 240. Apart from the Alchemist Guild, the Myriad Treasure Pavilion also had their eyes on Jiyu. It was Lung Rumung and the old lady beside her. Speaking of which, the Myriad Treasure Pavilion is here too. At this moment, someone suddenly pointed at the Myriad Treasure Pavilion and said, In an instant, it caused a new topic in the crowd. Yeah, I felt a little strange just now. The Myriad Treasure Pavilion has never participated in the previous 3-sex tournament. Moreover, the Myriad Treasure Pavilion's daughter, Lung Rumong, is here too. She's really a beauty, like the rumors say. I wonder if she already has someone in mind. I don't know if she has someone in mind, but it definitely won't be you. Stop fooling around, you too. Lung Rumong is clearly mine. Pfft. You're so *king shameless. The topic was suddenly ignited. If these people knew that Lung Rumong came specifically for GU this time, they would probably shut themselves up. As the various major powers continued to greet each other, the time was finally almost up. Everyone was excited and nervous, except for GU, who was cultivating as if nothing had happened. Ding. Master has cultivated for 1 minute. Martial cultivation obtained experience points, 10 by 999 times. Ding. Master has cultivated for 1 minute. Martial cultivation obtained experience points, 10 by 999 times. Soon, someone realized that GU was actually cultivating. Damn, did you see that? That guy is actually cultivating there. Who? Which one? You mean that GU? Damn, he's really cultivating. This is too much. The 3-sex tournament is about to begin. That guy actually has the mood to cultivate there? When the surrounding ordinary people realized this, they immediately went into an uproar. After all, they did not know GU's true strength. They simply thought that GU was forcefully showing off. However, those who were about to participate in the 3-sec grand tournament were all dumbfounded. Only the people from the Qianyuan martial house were slightly calmer. It was such a grand 3-sec tournament, and they were all so nervous. How could this GU cultivate so calmly? Was she even human? Seeing GU like this, they all panicked even more. In their opinion, this GU must have absolute strength to be so arrogant. The people from the Kanglan Empire Academy were fine. They all knew that GU was terrifyingly strong. But the people of Qingxian's sect were different. They originally doubted whether GU was as strong as the elder had predicted, but now it was hard to doubt. On the high platform, the big shots of the other forces sighed. The gray-robed elder beside Yushuyan gave GU a meaningful look. On the other hand, Lung Rumung from the Thousand Treasure Pavilion had a look of interest in her beautiful eyes. She now completely believed that she had made the right choice in coming to the 3-sec grand tournament. However, the culprit of all this, GU, did not expect that her casual cultivation would cause such a huge commotion. Other than being speechless, she did not have any other thoughts. When the time came, all the participants from the Kanglan Empire Academy, Qingxian sect, and Qianyuan martial house, a total of more than 300 people, entered the silver light circle together. GU walked to the front of the crowd. It was not that she deliberately walked the fastest, but that no one dared to walk in front of her. Everyone present was filled with fear and vigilance towards GU. Chapter 241. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, GU slowly stopped in the middle of the huge silver halo. Other than the students from the Qianyuan martial house, the other participants kept a certain distance from GU. Because there were too many people squeezing together, GU couldn't find Chunyin. Furthermore, there were experts from the Kanglan Empire Academy around them. Even the principal of the Kanglan Empire Academy was watching them from the high platform. Even if he wanted to find Chunyin, he couldn't. He could only wait for the 3-sex tournament to start and find a chance to deal with Chunyin. This time, there was no one in charge of hosting the 3-sex tournament because all the participants already knew the rules of the tournament. For hundreds of years, the Kanglan Empire Academy had been the host of the 3-sex tournament. The rules of the 3-sex tournament had been passed down for hundreds of years. Basically, everyone was clear about it. The 3-sex tournament was divided into 2 segments. First, the first segment was to test one's martial heart in the illusion realm. On the path of martial arts, one not only needed talent, but also a martial heart. The martial heart didn't refer to loyalty and righteousness. It didn't have much to do with good or evil. The martial heart was the determination of a martial artist to pursue martial arts. The path of martial arts was filled with various dangers, hardships, and temptations that would continuously wear down the martial heart. If one's martial heart wasn't strong enough, it would be easy for one to give up on the path of martial arts. For example, some people cultivated martial arts only to pursue wealth and sensual pleasures. This kind of martial heart was nothing when one first stepped into the path of martial arts. However, not long after, these people would gradually lose their motivation to cultivate martial arts. This was because as long as one reached the defensive profound realm, they would have a certain amount of wealth and sensual pleasures. Without a goal, they would lose their motivation and would forever be stuck at the defensive profound realm. Furthermore, not everyone could reach the common profound realm. Therefore, the martial heart test was very important as it could see a martial artist's future. In fact, there were a total of 5 stages in the illusion realm. However, because the 4th and 5th stages were too difficult, the 4th and 5th stages had not been used for hundreds of years. It had not been used for hundreds of years. In addition, the Xian Qi in the illusion realm was slowly draining away. Now, it was impossible to enter the 4th and 5th stages even if one wanted to. Even though there were only 3 stages, the elimination rate was still extremely high. Taking the 3 stages of illusion as a standard, the average elimination rate was more than 90%. In other words, among the 300 people present, only 30 to 40 people would be able to pass the 3 stages of illusion. After the 3 stages of the illusion realm were over, it was time for the 2nd stage, the arena battle. Only those who completely passed the first round, the 3 illusions, could enter the 2nd round, the arena battle. Everyone drew lots, and the 2 people who drew the same lot would fight each other. Once they stepped onto the arena, either one of them stepped out of the ring or voluntarily admitted defeat would be considered as the loser. The winner would advance, while the loser would be eliminated. Then they would continue to draw lots, and the cycle would continue. In the end, there were only 4 people left, and they fought in a mixed 4-person arena. The longer one stood in the ring, the higher one's ranking would be. It was obvious that this was a deliberate rule set by the Kanglin Empire Academy. In every 3-sect tournament, among the 4 people who advanced to the end, at least 2 of them were from the Azure Water Empire Academy. Under such circumstances, the Kanglin Empire Academy was able to sit firmly on the throne of first place. However, Ji did not care about this. Even if the other 3 people were all from the Kanglin Empire Academy, he would still be able to crush them effortlessly. 3-sects tournament, 3 stages of illusion realm, begin. At this moment, a deep and dignified voice was heard. The owner of this voice was the dean of the Kanglin Empire Academy. As soon as he finished speaking, all the participants standing in the huge silver light circle instantly disappeared from where they were. Only a few people who were watching the 3-sects tournament for the first time were shocked. Most of them were already used to it. At the same time, the scene in front of Ji Yu changed drastically. The surroundings became a boundless forest and mountain range. Chapter 242. Ji Yu looked around and realized that everyone was gone. It was as if he was the only one left in the entire mountain range. However, he didn't panic because he knew that this should be the first stage of the illusion. Just as Ji Yu was about to walk around and take a look, a terrifying roar came from not far in front of him. He frowned slightly and looked carefully. He saw all kinds of beasts charging from the dense forest in front of him. They were extremely barbaric and terrifying. Trees were knocked down one by one, and countless beasts appeared in front of Ji Yu. 1st grade, 2nd grade, 3rd grade. All kinds of beasts that he had seen before, and those that he had never seen before all appeared here. Most people would be scared out of their wits if they saw such a terrifying scene. However, Ji Yu was still calm and collected. He stood there motionlessly, allowing the horde of demonic beasts to charge at him. In the instant that the group of gigantic demon beasts collided with him, even though he had already mentally prepared himself, he still felt a huge sense of oppression and impact, as if it brought him a suffocating feeling. This illusion is really unusual. Ji Yu couldn't help but sigh in his heart. He knew that this was an illusion, but he couldn't get rid of the illusion's influence on him. At the same time, outside the illusion. Look, the first golden light lit up. Someone passed the first stage so quickly. It can't be. It's only been a minute, or even less than half a minute. He has already surpassed the previous record by a huge margin. I remember that the record for the first stage of the 3 stages of the illusion was 3 or 4 minutes. It's less than half a minute. I don't know how far he has left the original record behind. The first golden light in the huge silver halo immediately attracted the attention of everyone present. Everyone began to guess who it was that had passed the first stage so quickly. I think it should be Gao Junjie. Now, Gao Junjie is not only the #1 genius of the Kanglan Empire Academy, but also the #1 genius of the entire Kanglan Empire. Anyway, the Kanglan Empire Academy, the Qingxian sect, and the Qianyuan martial house have 3 top geniuses in total. Just guess from these 3. I also think that Gao Junjie is more likely. I don't know what that GU is like, and the 3 stages of the illusion realm aren't based on one's cultivation. Most of the onlookers guessed that it was Gao Junjie. While these people were discussing, more and more contestants were eliminated from the illusionary realm. They couldn't keep their minds and were overwhelmed by the demonic beasts. The eliminated contestants didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Almost no one paid any attention to them. Each and every one of them lowered their heads and left the silver light circle in low spirits. At this time, not only the ordinary audience, but also the various big shots on the high platform began to discuss this matter. The 3 stages of the illusion realm don't test one's cultivation, but one's heart of martial arts. To be able to pass the first stage so quickly, it only shows that one's heart of martial arts is extremely firm. It has nothing to do with one's cultivation. It's not easy to guess. Some talented martial cultivators may not have a heart of martial arts as compared to ordinary people. Regardless of talent or strength, it can't judge a person's heart of martial arts. When the big shots were in the middle of their discussion, suddenly someone said, "Dean Gao, what do you think?" All the big shots immediately looked at the dean of the Kanglan Empire Academy, Gao Huan, the dean of the Kanglan Empire Academy. Interestingly, Gao Junjie was his son. He looked dignified, but he was actually calm. He said lightly, "The more hardships one goes through, the more one's heart of martial arts is usually as firm as a rock. Although my son is not the strongest, his heart of martial arts has been tempered thousands of times." However, before Gao Huan could finish, another person was immediately thrown out of the illusion realm. As soon as this person appeared, it instantly set off a storm in the arena. Because this person was Gao Junjie. Chapter 243. The moment Gao Junjie appeared, Gao Huan's voice stopped abruptly. Before he could finish his words, he was slapped in the face at the speed of light. The whole audience was embarrassed. Ordinary people didn't dare to laugh at the dean of the Kanglan Empire Academy. Only a few big shots on the platform were secretly laughing. Gao Huan didn't look good, so he didn't say anything. Gao Junjie left with a gloomy face like a walking corpse. After returning from the Qianyuan martial house last time, his martial Dao heart was greatly shaken. This was only the first stage of the 3 stages of illusion, but his martial Dao heart was already destroyed and he was eliminated. That was one thing. It was Dean Gao's business to feel embarrassed. None of the people present had expected that Gao Junjie would be eliminated in the first round, and in such a short time. Only the people of the Kanglan Empire Academy guessed the reason. After all, only they knew what Gao Junjie had experienced when he visited the Qianyuan martial house last time. Wait, everyone's heart skipped a beat. Since Gao Junjie was eliminated, who was the person who had just broken the record? However, at this moment, the huge silver halo lit up a second golden light, which meant that someone had passed the second stage. Everyone present was stunned. What was going on? How could someone pass the second stage? It had been less than a minute since the start of the 3 stages of illusion. Everyone found it hard to believe that this was real. The 3 stages of illusion had eliminated many martial arts geniuses since ancient times. Now someone had passed it so easily, like playing house. They were eager to know who was so terrifying. At this moment in the illusion, ding! Master activated 50% sword principle, sword intent. 50% sword principle, sword intent. Experience gained. 500 by 999 times. The sword essence that erupted from Ji-Yu's body gradually faded away. Obviously, he was the one who had passed the second stage. The second stage was the aura stage. On the battlefield where corpses were everywhere and blood flowed like a river, he had to face thousands of soldiers alone. However, Ji-Yu activated the sword principle, sword intent casually, and everything disappeared in an instant. Now, the scene in front of Ji-Yu changed again. He didn't know what was happening outside, but he knew that the third stage of the illusion had begun. According to the known information, the first of the 3 stages of the illusion test one's courage, and the second one's momentum. After the third stage, it was thinking of this. Ji-Yu suddenly appeared in a pink boudoir. The light gauze and warm curtains gave off an intoxicating fragrance. Inside the pink gauze was the naked bodies of Jiang Yuechu and Jiang Yuexin. The atmosphere suddenly became lively. Sure enough, the third stage of the 3 stages of illusion was the stage of lust. Although the 2 sisters were still young and their figures were still budding, they already possessed great temptation. At this moment, Ji-Yu's lower abdomen couldn't help but heat up. He had to admit that he was indeed a little tempted. But if that was all, it wouldn't be enough to make Ji-Yu lose her heart. He easily suppressed the restlessness in his heart. At this moment, Jiang Yuechu suddenly spoke. Ji-Yu, it's getting late. Let's go to sleep. Hearing this, Ji-Yu couldn't help but be a little surprised. This illusion was so realistic that the fake in front of her could actually speak. I've already compromised. How long are you going to wait? Jiang Yuexin said with a red face. Chapter 244. You guys actually know how to talk? Ji-Yu couldn't help but complain. Ji-Yu, what are you talking about? Are you under too much pressure? Jiang Yuechu leaned on Ji-Yu and caressed Ji-Yu's face. She said softly, Chanyin is already dead, and the evolving temple is also destroyed. Now you should relax and have a good sleep with us. For a short moment, Ji-Yu's heart did waver. Living with Yu Chu and Yu Xin without any worries. Wasn't this the life he wanted? However, after this moment, Ji-Yu bit the tip of his tongue, and the pain woke him up instantly. Ding! Master resisted the temptation of the illusion. Bronze willpower, gained experience. 10 by 999 times. A moment of comfort and enjoyment was not the life Ji-Yu wanted at all. Only by continuously increasing his strength and reaching the peak of martial arts and becoming invincible could he truly live a peaceful life. Otherwise, so what if he really destroyed the evolving temple? The Tianxian continent was boundless, and the evolving temple was just one of thousands of forces. There were definitely more powerful forces above the evolving temple. At least before he became invincible, he definitely couldn't give up on martial arts and degrade himself. Ji-Yu, don't you like us? Seeing that Ji-Yu was still unmoved, Jiang Yuechu's eyes were filled with resentment. Jiang Yuexin also looked like she was about to cry, as if she was bullied by Ji-Yu. How can I not like you guys? It's just that I can't give up on martial arts. After saying that, Ji-Yu couldn't help but mock himself. He actually said so much to these 2 imposters. It was like he was an idiot. However, the strange thing was that Jiang Yuechu's expression suddenly became very calm. I wish you good luck in martial arts. Although this sentence came from Jiang Yuechu's mouth, it didn't sound like Jiang Yuechu's voice. However, he couldn't describe what this voice was, because Ji-Yu only remembered this sentence and forgot the voice after hearing it. This voice seemed to be magical. Gradually, the scene around him shattered. Ji-Yu returned to the giant silver halo, and, at the same time, the silver halo lit up with a third golden light, which meant that Ji-Yu had passed the illusion test. Seeing Ji-Yu appear, almost everyone around couldn't believe their eyes. The person who broke the record of the illusion test was Ji-Yu. Previously, they had thought that Ji-Yu was being conceited by leisurely cultivating on the spot. Now, they realized that they were completely wrong. Ji-Yu returned to the high platform with a calm expression, and from beginning to end, he didn't care about any of the gazes around him. So it's Ji. I really didn't expect that this young man's martial arts heart would be so tenacious and indomitable. He left the original record of the illusion test far behind. Since his martial arts heart is so firm, his strength shouldn't be bad. Chapter 245. When Ji returned to her seat, the martial arts grand elder, Elder Zheng, gave her a meaningful look. Elder Zheng was not particularly surprised by Jiyu's performance in the 3 stages of illusion. He was paying attention to something that no one else was paying attention to. Jiyu had spent a lot of time in the 3rd stage of the illusion realm. The first 2 stages took less than half a minute, but the 3rd stage took 2 to 3 minutes. Elder Zheng knew that the 3rd stage was the stage of lust, which meant that compared to other aspects, Ji-Yu was slightly lacking in lust. Although she was far better than the average genius, she was still a little behind the original record holder. The record for the 3 stages of illusion had not changed for 100 years. It was set by the number 1 genius of the Kanglan Empire, Zhuang Wuhan, who also had an innate spiritual body constitution. Although she was not as good as Ji-Yu in the first 2 stages, Zhuang Wuhan only spent a few breaths of time in the stage of lust. It was a pity that Zhuang Wuhan gave up the position of the Lord of Kanglan and resolutely left the Kanglan Empire for the outside world. Now, no one knew whether he was dead or alive. But it's not strange. After all, no one is perfect. Elder Zheng could not help but sigh softly. Elder Fu seemed to have heard Elder Zheng's inner thoughts and said faintly, Zhuang Wuhan is an exception. His character is destined to not like beauty. Compared to Zhuang Wuhan, I still prefer a hot-blooded young man like Ji-Yu. That's true. Elder Zheng laughed and said, it's not necessarily a bad thing that this kid has a woman in his heart. At the same time, at the Alchemist Guild, Shuyan, did you notice that although that young man passed the 3 stages of illusion very quickly, the time he spent in the 3rd stage was obviously much slower than the first 2? The gray-robed elder said to Yu Shuyan. Yu Shuyan nodded silently. She also noticed it. At the same time, a thought appeared in her mind. The girl Ji-Yu met in the stage of lust, could it be her? However, she immediately dismissed the idea because she knew that Ji-Yu was most concerned about the pair of sisters in the City Lord's mansion. Come to think of it, I don't think I saw those 2 sisters here today. I wonder how they're doing now. Only a few people, including Lung Rumong, noticed Ji-Yu's flaw in lust. However, she didn't feel anything. In her opinion, it was normal for humans to have 7 emotions and 6 desires. There was nothing strange about this. If Zhuang Wuhan appeared in front of her, she would definitely think that this person was a weirdo. Ji did not respond to the discussion between Elder Zheng and Elder Fu because he was already immersed in cultivation. Ding! Master has practiced martial arts for 1 minute. Martial arts cultivation EXP gained 10 by 999 times. Ding! Master has practiced martial arts for 1 minute. Martial arts cultivation EXP gained 10 by 999 times. For Ji-Yu, what happened next had nothing to do with him. Therefore, there was no need for him to pay attention to it. One after another, the participants were eliminated by the illusionary realm. Of course, there were also those who successfully passed the 3 stages, but it took them at least 10 minutes. For example, the second person to pass the 3 stages was the number 1 genius of the Qingxian sect. It took him a total of 14 minutes to pass the 3 stages. He was not on the same level as Ji-Yu. The last person to pass the 3 stages was Chun Yan. He did not suffer as much as Gao Junjie did. He barely passed the stages. To everyone's surprise, Qi Ling was also eliminated. None of them had expected that the former number 1 genius of the Qianyuan martial house would be trapped in the stage of lust. They were very surprised. Wasn't Qi Ling famous for hating men? Why would she be trapped in the stage of lust? Then, some people had a guess in their minds. Could it be that Qi Ling liked women? No matter how they guessed, Qi Ling was the only one who knew the truth. After Qi Ling was eliminated by the illusionary realm, she immediately returned to her seat on the high platform. She was sitting next to Ji-Yu, but she did not dare to look at Ji at all, who knew what she had experienced in the stage of lust. Chapter 246. Finally, the 3 stages of illusion were completed. Only 32 people passed the 3 stages of illusion. The remaining 200 people were all eliminated. Then, the battle was about to begin. All 32 people could go through the first round of drawing lots. Ji, who was the first to pass the 3 stages of illusion, was the first to draw lots. 6. Ji opened the lot in his hand and saw that it was number 6. From number 1 to 16, there were 2 lots for every number, which meant that there were 32 lots in total. Later on, the person who also drew lot number 6 will be fighting Ji in a single elimination match. Seeing that Ji had drawn lot number 6, almost all the contestants around her were praying that they would not draw lot number 6. After Ji drew lots, the remaining 31 contestants went up to draw lots one after another. Ji looked at the lot and saw that it was someone else who drew lot number 6 instead of Chunyin. He could not help but feel disappointed. He only hoped that Chunyin would not be eliminated in the first round of battle. Then, he would not be able to meet Chunyin. After everyone drew lots, it meant that the first round of drawing lots was over. The first round of battle was about to begin. Beside the huge silver circle, a mechanism seemed to have been triggered. A square pit appeared on the ground, and a battle ring slowly rose up from it. This was the battle ring used for the battle ring. It had been hidden underground. The battle order for the battle ring started with the 2 holders of lot number 1, followed by lot number 2, lot number 3, and so on. Ji was not interested in these people's battle at all. He just sat in his seat and closed his eyes to rest. Ding! Master has cultivated martial arts for 1 minute. Martial arts cultivation gained experience points. 10 by 999 times. Ding! Master has cultivated martial arts for 1 minute. Martial arts cultivation gained experience points. 10 by 999 times. Time passed slowly. Ji was stabilizing his cultivation state. At this time, the 2 contestants who drew lot number 5 had finished their battle. It was his turn to go up to the battle ring. Standing in front of him was a Qingxian sect disciple. His strength seemed to be average. Anyway, in his eyes, everyone was a piece of trash that could be killed in 1 move. The match hadn't started yet, but the person opposite her was already trembling uncontrollably. It was as if Ji was the most terrifying thing in the world in that person's eyes. Seeing him like this, Ji was a little speechless. If you don't want to compete, just admit defeat. The Qingxian sect disciple hesitated for a long time before weakly saying, "No, I want to compete." There were many seniors and fellow apprentices of other sects watching them. He didn't dare to ruin the reputation of Qingxian sect, so he could only force himself to continue the battle. "Since you want to compete, then don't blame me for being impolite," Ji said calmly. As soon as he finished speaking, the competition began. Ji's body was as light as a swallow. She didn't even use a Xian skill and just used her own speed to quickly arrive in front of that Qingxian sect disciple. It was a very ordinary palm strike, but in the eyes of others, it was so fast that the naked eye could not see it clearly. Ding! Master has struck a palm strike. Experience points gained, 1 by 999 times. Ji's casual move scared the soul out of her opponent. As a Qingxian sect disciple, the seniors in the sect had guessed that Ji's strength was very close to Tongxian realm. If this palm strike landed on him, he felt that he would very likely lose his life. I admit defeat. In front of death, he couldn't care about anything else. He closed his eyes and shouted with all his might. How could the sect's reputation be more important than his own life? Chapter 247. As his opponent admitted defeat, Ji advanced to the second round without any suspense. The first round of the challenge tournament was not over yet. There were 16 people in total who advanced to the second round. Among them, only 3 were from the Qianyuan martial house. They were Ji, Qi Ling, and a core disciple whom he had never met before. The Kanglan Empire Academy had 9 disciples, and the Qingxian sect had 4. That was the result of the first round. Jiyu paid a little attention to Chun Yin and found that he had also advanced to the second round. This guy seemed to have improved a lot during his time in the Kanglan Empire Academy. After all, he had awakened his acquired spiritual body, so he would definitely be nurtured by the Kanglan Empire Academy. Then the second round began, and they continued to draw lots. This time, Jiyu drew lot number 4, so he still could not face Chun Yin directly. His opponent, who also drew lot number 4, was a student from the Kanglan Empire Academy. That student did not seem to hesitate at all. He admitted defeat as soon as the match began. His face was not red, and he was not out of breath. Jiyu, on the other hand, easily advanced again. After the second round, the audience gradually recognized Jiyu's strength. They looked down on Jiyu at the beginning, but they gradually became confused. Why did he hide in the Qianyuan martial house when he was so powerful? Suddenly, they came to a realization. Could it be that this guy simply did not want to show up? Jiyu was bored, so he cultivated and stabilized his realm. He did not go up to draw lots until the third round began. There were 8 contestants left. Among them, only 2 were from the Qianyuan martial house. They were Jiyu and Ling. Among the remaining 6 contestants, 4 were from the Kanglan Empire Academy. Like the Qianyuan martial house, only 2 were left. Although the Kanglan Empire Academy seemed to have a great advantage, no one dared to guess the final result because Jiyu was such a dark horse. Until now, they had not seen Jiyu's strength because Jiyu did not fight much in the first 2 rounds. In the third round, 4 would advance to the next round. The drawing of lots began. However, Jiyu did not meet Chun Yin in the end. Instead, her opponent was someone from the Qingxian sect. He couldn't help but feel slightly strange. Isn't this too strange? He could understand why he had not drawn Chun Yin in the first and second round. But it was already the third round, and he still did not draw Chun Yin. Could it be that his luck was really that bad? However, Jiyu couldn't do anything about it. She could only wait until the final battle between the 4 of them. When the third round of the challenge tournament began, Jiyu still felt no pressure at all. She just used a little bit of strength and sent her opponent flying out of the ring. This opponent was the number 1 seed of the Qingxian sect, but he was eliminated by Jiyu within 3 seconds. However, they didn't dare to say a word because they knew that Jiyu had already shown them mercy. She wasn't serious at all. The 2 leading elders of the Qingxian sect sighed. Our Qingxian sect is destined to be the last in this tri-sect competition. Sigh, yeah, I don't know where this monster Jiyu came from. If only I had helped her during the entrance exam. One of the leading elders was also present during the entrance exam in Chaoyang Ancient City. Therefore, it was too late for him to regret. If he had done Jiyu a favor when the Kanglan Empire Academy cheated, Jiyu might be the genius of the Qingxian sect now. However, this was the reality. No matter how much he regretted it, it was useless. Chapter 248. In the third round, Ling met a strong opponent and was eliminated after a fierce battle. After the dust settled, there were 4 contestants left in the arena who had advanced to the final round and were ready for the 4-person battle royale. What was interesting was that other than Jiyu, the other 3 contestants were from the Kanglan Empire Academy. Chun Yin was one of them. Jiyu had been paying attention to the first round of the competition. Chun Yin and the other 2 from the Kanglan Empire Academy had opponents that were slightly weaker than them. It was like Tianji's horse racing, where the best horse was against the average horse, and the average horse was against the inferior horse. Jiyu felt that the Kanglan Empire Academy had manipulated the draw of the third round, so that Chun Yin and the other 2 would have opponents that were weaker than them. It was no wonder that he couldn't fight Chun Yin. However, Jiyu didn't care too much about it. She just needed to defeat Chun Yin in the last round. Good luck, Chief Ji. Good luck, Senior. The last round of the competition was about to begin. A group of students from the Qianyuan martial house was cheering for Jiyu. This was the most decisive round, and the winner's faction would be crowned the top. Elder Zheng and Elder Fu were also excited. Their Qianyuan martial house had been at the bottom for many years. Today, Jiyu might be able to create a miracle. Jiyu nodded in response and stepped into the arena again. In this 4-person battle royale, Everyone could see that the Kanglan Empire Academy was manipulating things behind the scenes again. However, they couldn't say anything. After all, the Kanglan Empire Academy was the host. They just felt that it was a pity that GU would have to face 3 Kanglan Empire Academy's geniuses at the same time. It wouldn't be easy for her to win. Compared to the Kanglan Empire Academy's people, they want to see GU win more. A few big shots didn't think so. They had a basic understanding of GU's strength. They believed that even if GU faced 3 Kanglan Empire Academy's geniuses at the same time, she would be able to defeat them. Many people had different thoughts, but the people of Kanglan Empire Academy were the clearest. The time had come, and the 4 rounds of chaotic battles began. I admit defeat. However, just as GU was about to make a move, she heard Chun Yin and the other 2 shouting in unison. The 3 geniuses of the Kanglan Empire Academy admitted defeat without hesitation. Everyone was stunned. Even GU did not expect this. You want to admit defeat? GU narrowed her eyes. You must die today. He couldn't care less. He had to kill Chun Yin today. Ding. Master has used Lightning Luster Transformation. Lightning Luster Transformation gained experience. 1000 *999X. Ding. Congratulations, Master. The low-grade Earth rank profound skill, Lightning Luster Transformation, has successfully broken through to the initial success stage. In an instant, GU turned into a bolt of lightning and pierced through Chun Yan's heart the moment he finished speaking. Even though Lightning Luster Transformation was a profound movement skill, it contained the power of lightning. Even though it wasn't very powerful, it was more than enough to deal with Chun Yan. Chun Yin didn't even have time to react. He didn't even know how he died. His heart had been pierced through by lightning. There was no chance of survival. Gao Huan was the first to react. He was instantly enraged. He never would have thought that Chun Yin had already taken the initiative to admit defeat, yet GU still dared to kill Chun Yin in front of him. You're simply lawless. Gao Huan roared in rage. He stood up abruptly and released a terrifying aura. The high platform beneath his feet instantly cracked. Many of the weaker people in the surroundings vomited blood from the impact of this aura. The ordinary people bled from their 7 orifices and were in extreme pain. Cries of agony could be heard everywhere. Only those who had reached the Tongxian realm and above were able to withstand it. However, they were also on the high platform and were closer to Gao Huan. Hence, they didn't feel comfortable, especially the few Tongxian realm experts who were closest to Gao Huan. They couldn't help but groan. Their faces were slightly pale. Gao Huan, the dean of the Kanglan Empire Academy, was one of the most powerful experts in the Kanglan Empire. He was currently at LV9 of the Tongxian realm and was only 1 step away from the Spirit Profound realm. Almost no one present could withstand the anger of a LV9 Tongxian expert. Chapter 249. Seeing that the situation was not good, those who could still move quickly ran away. Many people were so badly injured that they could not even move. They could only take elixirs and try to recover their mobility. The disciples of the Qingxian sect were all protected by the leading elders in time, so not many people were injured. The leading elders of the Qingxian sect looked serious. GU suddenly attacked Chun Yin, who had already surrendered, and Dean Gao Huan was furious. These were all beyond their expectations. The only thing they could do now was to ensure the safety of their disciples. They did not want to interfere in other things, and they could not. Not many people in the Qianyuan martial house were injured. After all, Elder Zheng and Elder Fu were present. However, Elder Zheng and Elder Fu's expressions were very ugly. Gao Huan was so angry because GU had killed Chun Yin. If Gao Huan insisted on attacking GU, although they could protect GU, it would be difficult to protect the other disciples. No matter what, the current situation was not optimistic for them. Only GU was as calm as still water. He knew that this would happen before the 3 sects tournament started. Although Gao Huan's momentum was strong, he was not affected by it, because he had the sword Dao gist. At this moment, Gao Huan glared at GU and said, "Boy, if you don't give me an explanation today, Don't even think about leaving here. What explanation? Jiyu asked calmly. Jiyu's expression made Gao Huan even angrier. However, he forcefully suppressed the fury in his heart and questioned. Chunyin clearly admitted defeat just now. Why did you have to be so ruthless? I just wanted to kill him. That's all, Ji said calmly. Did he need a reason to kill his enemy? He had never cared about the rules of the three-sex tournament. It was also against the rules. Why was the Kanglan Empire Academy allowed to play dirty, but Ji could not kill? At this moment, the crowd was in chaos. A group of people were busy running away and did not care about what was happening on the high platform. On the high platform, all the big shots sucked in a breath of cold air when they heard Jiyu's words. He could kill as he pleased. Jiyu was probably the only person in the entire Kanglan Empire who dared to speak so arrogantly in front of Gao Huan. You! Gao Huan's face was ferocious, the fury in his heart burning to the extreme. Elder Zheng and Elder Fu finally could not hold it in any longer and stood out before Gao Huan completely exploded. Headmaster Gao, Ji was indeed in the wrong in this matter. However, it has already happened. I hope Headmaster Gao can be more tolerant. Elder Zheng didn't want to shed all pretense of cordiality with Gao Huan for the time being. Tolerance? Gao Huan coldly snorted and said, no need to say more. Today, this brat can forget about leaving. Hearing this, Elder Zheng decided not to waste any more time. Since the Kanglan Empire wants to fight, the Qinyuan Martial House is more than happy to oblige. Do it. A long sword appeared in Elder Fu's hand without anyone noticing. Sword intent was constantly spreading out. Jiyu also came to the middle of the two elders, preparing to exchange blows with Gao Huandua. Although his cultivation was far from Gao Huan's, he had an Earth-class sword technique and Sword Dao true intent. It was not impossible for him to fight with Gao Huan. With just the three of you, you want to fight against me? Gao Huan said disdainfully. Right at this moment, a clear, cold, and mellow voice suddenly sounded out. Your opponent is not them. It's me. Chapter 250. As soon as he finished speaking, a purple figure suddenly appeared in front of Jiyu and the other two. Master Morong, why are you here? Jiyu couldn't help but ask in surprise. He couldn't feel Master Morong's aura at all. It was as if Master Morong had appeared out of thin air. I left something on Elder Zheng's body. If anything happens, I'll be the first to know and arrive. Morong Zili didn't hide anything from Jiyu. Hearing this, Jiyu was enlightened. Qinyuan Martial House wasn't far from the Kanglan Empire Academy, and Master Morong had left some kind of artifact on Elder Zheng that could instantly teleport within a certain range. It was likely that only people at the level of Morong Clan Master would possess such a treasure. Morong Zili, do you want to fight me? Seeing Morong Zili suddenly appear, Gao Huan's eyes darkened. No matter what happened, he's not someone you can touch. Morong Zili had always been domineering, and this time was no exception. Hearing Morong Zili being so unreasonable, Gao Huan nodded and coldly said, since that's the case, then I won't be polite. He waved his hand. Shua, shua, shua. All of the Kanglan Empire Academy's instructors came to Gao Huan's side. These instructors were all Tongxian realm experts. Their cultivation was higher than Jiyu's, but Jiyu was able to surpass them with her sword skills and sword intent. The battle was about to start, so the juniors with lower cultivation all retreated. Even the big shots on the stage temporarily avoided the battle. This was a battle between the Kanglan Empire Academy and Qinyuan Martial House. They didn't dare to interfere. On one side was the strongest cultivation force in the Kanglan Empire, and on the other side was a young genius with a limitless future. No matter which side it was, they didn't want to offend them, so they could only remain neutral. At this moment, Ji was already prepared. She held Lung Feng tightly in her hand, and her sword intent was hidden. Gao Huan, the most troublesome person, will be dealt with by Manor Head Morong. As for the rest of the Tongxian realm experts, he and the two elders were more than enough to deal with them. Jiyu, be careful later. Elder Zheng said in a deep voice as he stared at the 11 people in front of him. If you really can't do it, just hide behind me. Elder Fu also reminded him. Ji nodded slightly and didn't say anything. He stared at the 10 instructors of the Kanglan Empire Academy. As soon as they moved, he would immediately bring out Coldblade. Why is that Ji still up there? Does he want to join the battle too? That brat is simply courting death. Not to mention the headmaster. The mentors can easily crush him to death with a single finger. At least our senior Ji has the courage. Look at your so-called number 1 genius, Gao Junjie. He can't even pass the first of the 3 stages of the illusion realm. The younger generation of the major forces all hid behind the stage and started to whisper to each other. The disciples of the Qingxian sect were relatively amiable in their discussion, but the disciples of the Kanglan Empire Academy and Xianyuan Martial House were different. Both sides were arguing back and forth. After all, it was already a good thing that they didn't start a private fight on the other side at such a critical time. However, as the saying goes, when gods fight, mortals suffer. Other than arguing, they didn't dare to act rashly. Otherwise, they would be finished if they were affected by the battle between the Tongxian realm experts. Chapter 251. The big shots from the various major powers also felt that something was amiss. Not only did Ji Yu not hide at the side, but she also wanted to fight against the Kanglan Empire's Tongxian realm experts. They felt that the Qianyuan Martial Mansion's mansion master couldn't be that stupid. They couldn't help but wonder if Ji Yu really had the strength to fight against those Tongxian realm experts. Tongxian realm experts were also divided into different levels. The Kanglan Empire's instructors were all at least at the 5th stage of the Tongxian realm. In their opinion, Ji Yu might have the strength to fight against a 1st stage Tongxian realm expert, but it was almost impossible for her to fight against a 5th stage Tongxian realm expert. No matter how they thought about it, they couldn't understand what was going on. I'm going to meet that woman for a while. You guys go and deal with that brat for me. Gao Huan transmitted the order to the instructors through mental communication. The moment Gao Huan made his move, the other instructors immediately attacked Ji Yu. Although Ji Yu had never understood Mansion Master Morong's strength, his cultivation base should be the same as Gao Huan's at the 9th stage of the Tongxian realm. The battle between the 2 9th stage Tongxian realm experts seemed to shake the heavens and earth. The two of them were testing each other, and the battle seemed to be evenly matched. However, Gao Huan seemed to be deliberately dividing the battle and leading Murong Zili to a distant place. However, Ji Yu didn't have the time to pay attention to Mansion Master Morong's battle, because the Kanglan Empire's instructors had already arrived in front of her. Those instructors used their best moves one after another. Each of them was powerful, and like a terrifying wave, they wanted to suppress Ji Yu, Elder Zheng, and Elder Fu. Elder Zheng and Elder Fu's expression immediately became heavy. They didn't dare to be careless and prepare to use all their strength to defend Ji Yu. Only Ji Yu's expression remained unchanged. The corner of his mouth raised slightly. Cold edge flashed in his hand, and a terrifying sword intent was released. Ding! Master has used the first form of Brilliant Sun in the Sky. Brilliant Sun in the Sky obtained experience. 1,000 by 999 times. Ding! Master has activated 50% of the Sword Dao True Meaning. 50% Sword Dao True Meaning. Experience gained. 500 by 999 times. At this moment, Ji Yu no longer held anything back. Her Earth Tier Sword Art, Brilliant Sun in the Sky, and her Sword Dao True Intent were unleashed at the same time. In the illusory sword, one could vaguely see the shadow of a sun hanging above the 9 heavens, disappearing in a flash. A scorching aura burst forth as a trace of reddish-gold sword radiance shot out from Coldblade, transforming into a gigantic sword wave. The sword wave was as fast as light, and a series of sizzling sounds could be heard. It was as if the space was about to be torn apart by this sword wave. Elder Zheng and Elder Fu didn't even have time to defend themselves before they saw a terrifying reddish-gold sword wave destroy all of the Mentor's moves as easily as crushing dry weeds and smashing rotten wood. What? The faces of the 10 instructors of the Azure Water Empire Academy abruptly changed. Although they didn't use their full strength, what they executed were all their best moves, but they were actually completely destroyed by a single sword wave from the other party. The strength that GU displayed this time was completely out of their expectations. They hurriedly executed their defensive mystic skills and defensive arrays because this sword wave made them feel an intense aura of death. The spectators below were even more shocked. Their eyes were filled with disbelief. This was like cutting tofu. Was this a joke? Chapter 252. The younger generation only received a great shock in terms of eyeballs. They couldn't understand the true terror of that scene just now. But those big shots whose cultivation had reached Tongxian realm and above were completely different. As Tongxian realm experts, they naturally knew that the 10 Mentors' moves were very powerful. But those moves were all shattered by GU's sword wave. They couldn't even be considered as a flash in the pan. And looking at GU's expression, it was as if she had just casually swung her sword. The more GU played it down, the greater the shock it brought to them. Elder Zheng and Elder Fu were also extremely shocked. A moment ago, they were still thinking of risking their lives to protect GU, but the next moment, GU only used one sword to destroy everything. The one who was the most shocked was Elder Fu. As a sword Dao Grand Elder, how could he not understand the meaning of GU's sword? He knew that GU's sword intent had already far surpassed him. That meant that it was at least a realm above Sword Dao true intent. That sword was at least an Earth-ranked sword art's power. At this very moment, Elder Fu's brain almost stopped working. He already didn't know how to think. Even Gao Huan and Murong Zili, who were far away, sensed the change here. Gao Huan couldn't help but be distracted for a moment, and Murong Zili seized this opportunity. The situation quickly changed from being evenly matched to Gao Huan gradually falling into a disadvantage. Murong Zili became more and more fierce, continuously pressuring Gao Huan. At the same time, the 10 Mentors each used their own defensive mystic skills and defensive formations to resist that golden sword wave that wanted to swallow the heavens and devour the earth. But their defensive formations were only 4th rank formations. They only resisted for a few breaths of time before shattering. Next, they could only pray for their own good fortune and use their own defensive mystic skills to resist. A moment later, the casualties were tragic. Among them, for Mentors whose cultivation were only at the 5th level of Tongxian realm were directly pierced through by the golden sword wave, completely dying without any possibility of survival. Among the remaining 6, 3 Mentors at the 6th level of Tongxian realm were heavily injured and luckily survived. The other 3 instructors who were at or above LV7 of the Tongxian realm had blocked the sword ripple, but they didn't look too good either. GU's sword had instantly turned the tide of the battle. In the blink of an eye, only 6 of the 10 Tongxian realm martial artists from the Kanglan Empire Academy were left. 3 of them were heavily injured and their strength was greatly reduced. As for the Qianyuan martial house, GU, Old Man Zheng, and Old Man Fu were in their best condition. Looking at what was happening in front of them, the audience once again felt suffocated. Just like that, half of the 10 Tongxian realm experts were killed by GU. Especially the younger generation of the Kanglan Empire Academy. They all felt a deep sense of despair and fear. Only now did they realize what kind of terrifying existence their Kanglan Empire Academy had provoked. At this moment, they already had the idea of escaping. The dean was still entangled with the master of the Qianyuan martial house, and the Mentors couldn't hold on for much longer. After that, GU would probably kill them. Is this all you've got? GU stared coldly at the Mentors in front of her. Her indifferent gaze was mixed with faint disdain. 3 of the Mentors were already heavily injured. When they heard GU's words, they couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood. Chapter 253. Needless to say, Ji was very satisfied with the power of the combination of this Earth-class sword art and 50% sword intent. He had just broken through to the 4th level of the Tongxian realm not long ago, but he was already able to kill a 5th-level Tongxian realm expert in one strike and heavily injure a 6th-level Tongxian realm expert. One had to know that the gap between each level was extremely huge, especially at the Tongxian realm. It was as difficult as ascending to the heavens to challenge someone of a higher level. Although the other party had underestimated him, Ji currently had no problem fighting against experts of the 6th or 7th level of the Tongxian realm. As long as the opponent above the 7th level of the Tongxian realm did not exceed the Spirit Profound realm, he could escape even if he could not win. You can withstand the first strike, but can you withstand the second strike? Without giving the opponent much time to breathe, Ji planned to end the battle quickly. What? There was actually a second strike. The remaining 6 mentors turned pale with fright at once. They originally thought that Ji's strike was some kind of special forbidden technique that could only be used once. They did not expect that it could be used a second time. They hurriedly recovered from their injuries, especially the 3 heavily injured instructors. They were numb and desperate as they continuously swallowed recovery pills. The 3 of them knew that they could not withstand Ji's second strike, but they could do nothing. Ding! Master has used the first form of Brilliant Sun in the Sky. Brilliant Sun in the Sky obtained experience. 1,000 by 999 times. Ding! Master has activated 50% of the Sword Dao True Meaning. 50% of the Sword Dao True Meaning gained experience. 500 by 999 times. The same strike as before was slashed out again. Gao Huan, who was far away, sensed the commotion and broke free from Murong Zili's entanglement in a moment of desperation. Stop! An angry roar came from afar. In the blink of an eye, Gao Huan appeared in front of the instructors and blocked Ji's sword wave. It could only be said that he was worthy of being a super expert close to the Spirit Profound realm. He shattered the sword wave with one palm. However, Gao Huan was not in a good state either. His right sleeve was completely destroyed and traces of blood flowed out from his arm. In a hurry, he forcefully blocked Ji's strike. Even Gao Huan could not avoid a light injury. But no matter what, he couldn't let the Academy's instructors suffer any more losses. These instructors were all Tongxian realm experts and were the cornerstones of the Kanglan Empire Academy. 4 of them had just been killed by Ji. It was a huge blow to the Kanglan Empire Academy. If there were any more losses, the Kanglan Empire Academy would need a long time to recover. Seeing this scene, Ji frowned slightly, but she relaxed in the next moment, because Murong Zili also appeared in front of him. Just a moment ago, he thought that Manor Head Murong had been defeated by Gao Huan. Now he was relieved. Just as Murong Zili was about to continue dealing with Gao Huan suddenly shouted, "Wait!" Murong Zili's figure paused, her purple eyes filled with doubt. Gao Huan paused for a moment and said, "This time, it's our Kanglan Empire Academy's loss. Let's stop here." He might not be afraid of the Qianyuan Martial House, but as the dean, he had to consider the entire Kanglan Empire Academy. If they continued to fight to the death with the Qianyuan Martial House, their Kanglan Empire Academy would definitely suffer great losses. There was no need to sacrifice themselves for the already dead Chen Yan. Murong Zili did not speak. Her purple eyes turned to Ji, because this time, the main character was not her, but Ji. Chapter 254. The students of the Kanglan Empire Academy stood there motionless. They didn't say a word, but their hearts were filled with mixed feelings. They had always been proud of the Kanglan Empire Academy, the strongest cultivation holy land in the Kanglan Empire. But now it was turned upside down by a youth of the same age as them. Even the dean had a compromise with this youth. However, they could only watch from the sidelines. They couldn't provide any help to the dean or the instructors. On the other hand, the students of the Qianyuan Martial House were all excited. Today was the first time in many years that the Qianyuan Martial House could hold their heads up high. All of this was thanks to Chief Jiyu. Then let's stop. Jiyu said indifferently. Fighting to the death with the Kanglan Empire Academy wasn't beneficial to the Qianyuan martial house or him. Now that he had achieved his goal and made the Kanglan Empire Academy pay a price, there was no need to continue. But before we stop, doesn't the Kanglan Empire Academy have anything to say? As soon as Jiyu finished speaking, Murong-zi Li followed up with another question. Hearing Murong-zi Li's words, Jiyu was stunned for a moment. She couldn't help but sigh. Master Murong was indeed Master Murong. Not only did he cause trouble in someone else's territory, but he also wanted to extort them. If it was him, he definitely wouldn't have thought of this. Gao Huan took a deep breath. After this, I'll send someone to apologize. There is no need to mention how sullen he felt after what had happened today. Good. Murong-zi Li nodded with satisfaction. She wasn't worried that Gao Huan would go back on his words. Since Gao Huan said it in front of so many people, he would definitely do as he said. Let's go. Under Murong-zi Li's lead, the people of the Qianyuan martial house left the Kanglan Empire Academy with a face full of pride. After the people of the Qianyuan martial house left, the rest of the onlookers also left. Although Yu Shuyan didn't have the opportunity to interact with Jiyu this time, she was very happy to see Jiyu become so strong. The last to leave was the 1,000 Treasure Pavilion. Ding Gao, we'll meet again if fate allows it. The old woman beside Lung Ru Meng said to Gao Huan politely. Then, she led the people of the Myriad Treasure Pavilion away. Farewell, esteemed guest. Gao Huan said to a mentor beside him. Even if he was in a bad mood, he did not dare to neglect the people from the Myriad Treasure Pavilion. Especially today, the Kanglan Empire Academy's reputation and vitality had been greatly damaged. If they wanted to quickly recover, they would need the help of the 10,000 Treasures Pavilion. Therefore, they could not afford to offend the 10,000 Treasures Pavilion. As soon as they walked out of the Kanglan Empire Academy, the old woman suddenly said, "Miss, you have a sharp eye. That young man is indeed a genius." Everything that had happened earlier had completely changed her opinion of Jiyu. As for him, we should try our best to be on good terms with him. Even if we don't interact with him, we definitely can't offend him. Lung Rumeng said softly. In fact, Jiyu's performance had exceeded her expectations. She never thought that Jiyu would be able to kill a mentor of the Kanglan Empire Academy. Throughout the history of the Kanglan Empire, there was no one more terrifying than Jiyu. The old woman nodded silently. Indeed, she could not afford to become enemies with that young man. I came to the Kanglan Empire by chance. I didn't expect to meet such a genius. Looks like I have to stay in the Kanglan Empire for a while. Lung Rumeng thought to herself. Chapter 255. After the end of the three-sex tournament, the situation in the Kanglan Empire underwent a huge change. The Qianyuan martial house directly snatched the position of the big brother of the Kanglan Empire. Especially Jiyu's sudden appearance. It caused a huge commotion. She was not even 18 years old, but she was already a Tongxian expert. Her strength had even reached the second tier of the Kanglan Empire. A Tongxian expert was practically the strongest in the Kanglan Empire. There were very few people who stepped into the spirit profound realm from the Tongxian realm. At least in the past 100 years, no one had reached the spirit profound realm. However, the native Tongxian experts of the Kanglan Empire were divided into 3 tiers. The first tier was the Duke of Kanglan, Zhuang Tianke, Gao Huan, Murong-zi Li, and the others. Zhuang Tiang's cultivation was the highest. He was half a step into the spirit profound realm. He was the strongest person in the entire Kanglan Empire who was closest to the spirit profound realm. The second tier was basically between the 5th and 8th tier of the Tongxian realm. Once the news of Jiyu killing 4 5th tier Tongxian experts spread, the people of the Kanglan Empire tacitly acknowledged Jiyu as a second-tier expert. The group of people who took the lead to ridicule Jiyu as a coward all disappeared without a trace. Those geniuses who were clamoring to not accept Jiyu's title of Heaven's Pride didn't dare to utter a single word. Everyone understood that Jiyu wasn't a coward. Instead, It was Jiyu who couldn't be bothered to lower herself to their level. Now that Jiyu was known as the #1 genius of the Kanglan Empire, no one dared to question her title of Heaven's Pride. Not even 18 years old and already standing on the second tier of the Kanglan Empire's martial arts. Even the former Duke of Kanglan couldn't do it. In these few days, many influential figures from various forces paid a visit to the Qianyuan martial house. Their main purpose was to befriend Jiyu. In their opinion, with the current situation, Jiyu would surpass the Duke of Navy Waves and become one of the strongest in the Kanglan Empire. Becoming a spirit-profound realm expert was only a matter of time. As long as one wasn't a fool, they would know that they should hug the thigh in advance. Although those gifts couldn't be said to be very valuable, when all of them were added together, it was very generous. In addition to the compensation from the Kanglan Empire Academy, Jiyu became rich overnight. After receiving so many things, Jiyu naturally needed some time to digest them. In the dormitory, Jiyu checked the contents of each storage ring one by one. Most of the gifts were delivered in the form of storage rings, so he had many storage rings in his hands. Among them, the highest grade was a superior grade 3 storage ring, which was sent by the Thousand Treasure Pavilion's daughter, Lung Ruming. Jiyu was planning to take this 3rd grade storage ring for her own use, not to mention how valuable it was. Ding! Master has activated his spirit power. Bronze spirit power experience gained. 1 by 999 times. Ding! Master has activated his spirit power. Bronze spirit power experience gained. 1 by 999 times. Ding! Congratulations, Master. Bronze spirit power has successfully broken through to the initial stage. Jiyu expended a great deal of mental power to open up all of the storage rings, and her mental power had inadvertently made a breakthrough. After spending a lot of effort, he checked all the items in the storage rings. Not to mention the countless gold coins, there was also a large pile of various medicinal pills, artifacts, mystic skills, and cultivation methods. However, their general grades were low, and most of them weren't of much use to Jiyu. Excluding these low-grade items, there were only a few things that Jiyu was interested in. Chapter 256. The first item was a large saber. According to the person who delivered it, it was a 3rd-grade medium-grade weapon called the Crimson Saber. Although Jiyu did not need a saber for now, it was hard to say in the future. With the ability provided by the system, it would be a piece of cake for him to practice saber techniques. Moreover, this large saber was of a higher grade than Lung Feng. Lung Feng was only a 3rd-grade lower-grade saber, while this large saber was a 3rd-grade medium-grade saber. Next was a secret manual. However, this secret manual was neither a mystic skill nor a cultivation technique. Instead, it was a mystic high-grade secret manual called the Intermediate Aura Concealment Technique. As the name suggested, the Aura Concealment Technique could conceal one's mystic chi and confuse others by concealing one's true cultivation level. With Jiyu's current cultivation level of LV for Tongxian Realm, even if the Intermediate Aura Concealment Technique was fully mastered, it would still be able to conceal one's cultivation level until it was below the Tongxian Realm, which was the defensive mystic realm. That was enough. There were also a few bottles of high-grade elixirs. These were the only things that would be of great use to Jiyu. After sorting everything out, it was time to start using them. Since Jiyu did not lack gold coins, she did not need to keep a portion of the elixirs. Instead, she used all of them to improve her cultivation level. Ding! Master has consumed a 4th-grade medium-grade elixir. Martial cultivation experience gained. 2,000 by 999 times. Ding! Master has consumed a 3rd-grade high-grade elixir. Martial cultivation experience gained. 1,000 by 999 times. Ding! Congratulations, Master. Martial cultivation has successfully broken through to the mid-stage of LV for Tongxian Realm. Ding! Congratulations, Master. Martial cultivation has successfully broken through to the late stage of LV for Tongxian Realm. After consuming all the elixirs, Jiyu's cultivation level improved by 2 small realms. Although the elixirs were not of high grade, there was a large number of them. It was not surprising that they were so effective. At this moment, someone knocked on the door. "What's the matter?" Ji asked casually. "Chief Disciple Ji, the sixth prince is here at the Qianyuan Martial House. He said that he is looking for you." The person outside the door must be an ordinary student. He was trembling even through the door. The sixth prince? What was that guy trying to do? Ji pondered for a moment before replying. "Wait a moment. I'll be right out." He really couldn't figure out what Zhuang Weiran wanted to do by coming here. Based on his understanding of Zhuang Weiran's personality, even if she was bored, she would still come here to play with him. But no matter what, since he was already here, he might as well take a look. After quickly tidying up the things in the room, Jiyu left with the ordinary student. When he arrived at the Violet Gold Hall, he realized that only Murong Manor Head and Zhuang Weiran were inside. However, Zhuang Weiran was no longer dressed like a man. Instead, she was dressed like a normal princess. "Why aren't you dressed as a man today?" Jiyu asked Zhuang Weiran in surprise. "Aren't you the one who doesn't like me dressing up as a man? Why are you asking me?" Zhuang Weiran asked. "No, what I mean is that Manor Head Murong is right beside you. Are you sure you're fine with this?" Jiyu explained. "No problem." Just as Zhuang Weiran finished speaking, Murong Zili suddenly spoke. "I already know the sixth princess's true identity, so there's no need to care." So it's like that. Jiyu thought about it and understood. With Manor Head Murong's eyes, he would definitely be able to tell that Zhuang Weiran was usually a woman dressed as a man. But in the next moment, he felt that something was wrong. Chapter 257. Jiyu had guessed that Zhuang Weiran disguised herself as a man to hide her true gender, so that it would be easier for her to fight for the throne in the future. Such an important matter definitely couldn't be known by others. But why did he feel like Zhuang Weiran didn't really care? It wasn't just her, even Manor Head Murong knew. Other than the two of them, there were probably other people who knew as well. Was it really that casual? Or was Zhuang Weiran really that rash? Finally, Jiyu couldn't help but ask, "Now that both Manor Head Murong and I know that you're a woman disguised as a man, doesn't that affect you?" What effect can this have? As long as not everyone knows, it's fine. Zhuang Weiran didn't really care. Besides, it was my father who wanted me to disguise myself as a man. Do you think I wanted to? Isn't it good to let you fight for the throne? Jiyu casually ridiculed. What fight for the throne? After a moment, Zhuang Weiran understood what Jiyu meant. You're wrong. That is my father's personal reason. It has nothing to do with the fight for the throne. In the Kanglan Empire, both men and women can fight for the throne. Personal reason. Jiyu was quite curious as to what this personal reason was, but this was someone else's private matter, so he didn't want to ask too much. But speaking of which, even though he didn't know much about the history of the Kanglan Empire, he had never heard of a woman inheriting the throne in the past few hundred years, so he thought that the throne could only be inherited by a man. Forget it, let's talk business. Jiyu felt that the topic was going too far, so he said, "You came all the way here for something, right?" "Nothing?" Zhuang Weiran said, "I'm just here to talk to you." Jiyu was speechless. He guessed right, this guy really came all the way here because he was bored. It's too boring to stay in the palace. Today, I was finally let out by my father, but the only one I'm familiar with outside is you, so I can only come and find you. Zhuang Weiran said with a face full of resentment. "I really don't understand why you have so much to talk about. Let's talk as we walk." Ji was speechless. He planned to accompany this guy for a while walking back to the dormitory. When he reached the dormitory, he would leave this guy alone. Then we'll be leaving first, Sister Zili. Before leaving, Zhuang Weiran even called out to Murong Zili. "Sister Zili." Ji almost complained again, but she restrained herself from saying it out loud. In his mind, even though Clan Master Murong looked like a super beauty who was no older than 20 years old, he reckoned that her real age was enough to be his mother. After all, the higher the cultivation of a martial cultivator, the longer their lifespan and the slower the aging process. However, the moment he opened his mouth, he immediately sensed that he was being stared at by Murong Clan Master's purple eyes. What did you say? Although this voice was flat and emotionless, it sent a chill down Gu's spine when he heard it. No, I didn't say anything. Gu replied unhurriedly. Although he looked calm on the surface, he was panicking in his heart. Once Clan Master Morong was enraged. How could he withstand it? Is that so? Morong Li said coldly. By the way, this clan master isn't much older than you. Chapter 258. Jiyu scratched his head awkwardly, not knowing what to say. He never thought that Manorhead Morong wouldn't be that much older than him. When he left with Zhuang Weiran couldn't help but say, "Don't you know that you can't just guess a woman's age? But Sister Li is pretty good to you. With her temper, if it was someone else, they would probably be dead already." Zhuang Weiran giggled. Hearing this, Jiyu couldn't help but sweat. Zhuang Weiran was right. With Manorhead Morong's temper, if it was someone else, they would have been killed already. As for why he was fine, he didn't know. Maybe it was because he was stronger. All right, I heard about what happened to you at the three-sex tournament. Zhuang Weiran suddenly said. Ji nodded. If he remembered correctly, Zhuang Weiran was one of the students from the Kanglan Empire Academy. However, he didn't see Zhuang Weiran at the three-sex tournament. I really didn't expect you to be so strong. Even those teachers weren't your match. Zhuang Weiran said excitedly. Ji was stunned. Aren't you a student from the Kanglan Empire Academy? Why you look so happy? I was only asked by my father to go to the Kanglan Empire Academy to cultivate. I don't have any feelings for it. Zhuang Weiran said disapprovingly. All right, Ji thought that Zhuang Weiran would be a little unhappy, but he didn't think that this guy didn't care at all. Speaking of which, what did you eat to grow up? You're so strong, even though you're younger than me. Zhuang Weiran asked curiously. Or are you saying that you were originally an old man and then ate some kind of magical pill to become younger? Hold your head, old man. Also, I grew up eating rice normally. Ji was speechless. It's just a joke. Don't mind it. Zhuang Weiran giggled. She didn't intend to ask further. After all, this was Ji's privacy. Zhuang Weiran continued. Although you can do whatever you want in the Kanglan Empire with your current strength, from my understanding of Gao Huan, he definitely won't let this go. I know that. That's not all you want to say, right? Ji said. You are indeed very smart. Zhuang Weiran smiled and said, that's right. Although Gao Huan might not be able to touch you, as the dean of the Kanglan Empire Academy, he has a lot of connections. It's said that not only does he have a close relationship with the Thousand Treasure Pavilion, he also has connections with some big powers outside of the Kanglan Empire. Ji nodded silently. He had thought about this before, but he didn't care too much about it. Now, it seemed that he had to be more careful. He wasn't sure whether the Thousand Treasure Pavilion would stand on his side or the Kanglan Empire's side when the time came. Also, there were the other major powers outside of the Kanglan Empire, which were also potential risks. Other than that, there was also the evolving temple that he had to pay attention to. It seemed that Ji still couldn't relax. I came here this time not only to get some fresh air, but also to remind you of these things. Zhuang Weiran said. Thank you. Ji thanked her. What Zhuang Weiran said just now was quite helpful to him. At least before this, he only knew that Gao Huan had a lot of connections, but he didn't know that the Thousand Treasure Pavilion had a close relationship with him. Chapter 259. That's about it. Zhuang Weiran smiled. You don't seem to be in the mood to chat with me. I'll just walk around for a bit before heading back to the palace. They weren't far from the Violet Gold Palace, and there weren't many people around. After all, no student would dare to walk around where the palace master was. However, Zhuang Weiran changed into a man's appearance, since it was easy to bump into people. After that, the two parted ways, and Ji returned to his dorm. He was going to pack his things and head back to Chaoyang Ancient City tomorrow. As for Jiang Yuechu and Jiang Yuexin, Ji didn't plan to bring them back for the time being. Although the evolving temple hadn't made any moves yet, Ji still had to tidy up Chaoyang Ancient City, so there was no need to bring them around. Besides, Ji would be more assured if they stayed with Master Morong. After all, Master Moron was much stronger than him. After packing his things, Ji went to inform Master Moron privately and headed back to Choyang Ancient City the next day. The next day, Ji walked out of the Qianyuan martial house in a black robe. As usual, he used the black robe to cover his face. Now that his reputation was too great, he was pushed to the top of the Kanglan Empire. However, it wasn't suitable for him to show his face in front of ordinary people. That way, he could avoid a lot of unnecessary trouble. After boarding the carriage, Ji quickly arrived at the spirit ship. Ding! Master has cultivated martial arts for 1 minute. Martial arts cultivation gained experience, 10 by 999 times. Ding! Master has cultivated martial arts for 1 minute. Martial arts cultivation gained experience, 10 by 999 times. He didn't have much to do along the way, so he kept cultivating his celestial chi to stabilize his realm. However, when Ji bought the ticket, he was told that the spirit ship that was supposed to go to Choyang Ancient City had a problem and had been sent for repair. The earliest would be 3 days later for a spirit ship to go to Choyang Ancient City. Ji frowned slightly. He didn't want to wait that long. Then, are there any spirit ships going to Choyang Ancient City today? Ji deliberately lowered her voice to avoid exposing her identity. I do. We'll depart in about an hour. The person in charge of collecting fees replied. Then give me a high-class ticket to the ancient city of brilliant light. Ji immediately said. Then, with the ticket in hand, he sat quietly on a wooden chair by the shore and waited. Ji spent half an hour cultivating her profound chi. There wasn't any idiot who didn't have eyes and came looking for trouble with him. In the end, they boarded the ship, reached the shore, and arrived at the ancient city. Everything went smoothly. The reason why Ji came to Radiant Ancient City was because it was the closest to Rising Sun Ancient City. If one were to take a carriage, it would only take 1 or 2 days to reach Chaoyang Ancient City. Although it would take a long time, it was better than waiting for 3 days. Ji casually took a carriage and quickly rushed to Chaoyang Ancient City. Not long after leaving the ancient Radiant City, the carriage arrived at a deserted road. Chaoyang Ancient City was a relatively barren place. In addition, this deserted road was not a pipeline, but a shortcut, so there was almost no traffic. Suddenly, a large group of people appeared in front of them. It seemed to be 2 groups of people, but they were squeezed together. Ji noticed that one of the groups looked familiar. It seemed to be the Nangong family's carriage team. Chapter 260. Every faction's carriage would have their own unique characteristics. The carriage in front of Ji was obviously the Nangong family's carriage. After all, he had ridden on it before. As for the other group of people, he did not recognize them at all. However, the other group of people looked aggressive. The Nangong family's carriage seemed to have met with mishap. Young master, there is a situation in front. What should we do now? The coachman gradually slowed down and asked Ji, who was in the carriage, worriedly. Let's go directly, Ji said. He roughly knew all the routes from the Radiant Ancient City to the Rising Sun Ancient City. If he had to take a detour, he would waste a lot of time. Naturally, he could only barge through directly. With his strength, he did not have to worry about it at all. He could also help the Nangong family along the way. The coachman was in a dilemma. The large group of people in front were not to be trifled with. If he barged in rashly, he might be implicated. However, since the guest had already spoken, he could only brace himself and go ahead. The coachman's face was bitter as he drove the carriage forward in fear. At the same time, on the other side of the 2 groups of people, a group of masked men in black blocked the Nangong family's carriage. The Nangong family's group of hired martial artists had vigilant looks on their faces. One of the old coachmen plucked up his courage and stood out. He asked loudly, "Who are you? Why are you blocking the Nangong family's path?" The leader of the masked men in black carried a huge saber on his shoulder. He said arrogantly, "You are indeed from the Nangong family. I won't waste time with you. Hurry up and call Nangong marching out." Hearing this, everyone in the Nangong family realized that the masked men in black were here for their young miss. "Why are you looking for our young miss?" The old coachman's face turned solemn. The masked man in black smiled and walked to the old coachman. Under everyone's gaze, he suddenly waved the huge saber in his hand. In the next moment, the old coachman's head was separated from his body. He probably did not expect that the other party would suddenly kill him. I already said that I don't want to waste my breath with you. I asked you to call for help, but you didn't. Then I can only let you die. The black-clothed man kicked the corpse of the old coachman to the ground and cursed at the corpse. Many of the hired martial artists in Nangong's team paled. Although they were all martial artists, this was the first time most of them had come out to train. They had never experienced such a thing. After all, the Nangong family was one of the top families in the ancient, brilliant Radiant City. Almost no one dared to provoke them in this area, and the hired warriors rarely encountered any danger. It was precisely because of this that they chose to be hired by the Nangong family's carriage team. They didn't expect to run into these vicious people on the way. They all stood there in a daze, not knowing what to do, especially the few who were afraid of death. They even had thoughts of secretly escaping. "Why are you looking for me?" At this moment, a cold and ethereal voice suddenly sounded from a carriage. Then, a veiled woman walked down from the carriage. This woman was Nangong Maching. When she saw the old coachman lying on the ground with his head separated from his body, she couldn't help but frown. Then, she turned to the masked man in black. "I am Nangong Maching. Why are you looking for me?" Chapter 261. You are Nangong Maching? The black-clothed man, carrying a large saber, sized up Nangong Maching's delicate body without any reservations. With a lustful gaze, he said, "Tisk, TSK, TSK. You are indeed a first-rate beauty. Did you come to me just to tell me this?" Nangong Maching's eyes revealed a trace of disgust, and her tone was extremely cold. "Of course not," the black-clothed man said straightforwardly. "Come with us obediently. There's a big shot who wants you." Although the beauty of the woman in front of him moved his heart, he was only working for someone and didn't dare to lay his hands on this woman. "Who's that big shot?" Nangong Maching continued to ask. "You don't need to know this, but I advise you not to play any tricks," the black-clothed man threatened. "Otherwise, everyone else will end up like that old fellow." The old fellow that the black-clothed man was referring to was the old coachman. Hearing this, most of the people in Nangong Maching's group were shocked. Although they didn't know how high the cultivation of these black-clothed men were, they knew that this black-clothed man was much stronger than them. At this moment, one of the black-clothed man's companions suddenly said, "There is a carriage coming over. Don't care about it, but if the people in the carriage do anything, just deal with them together." The black-clothed man didn't even bother to look at the carriage and said casually. At this moment, an old man in the group couldn't help but stand out. "Young miss, don't go with them." He stood in front of Nangong Qingma and looked at the black-clothed men coldly. "Oh, another old fellow. He seems to be quite strong." The black-clothed man's tone was still arrogant. "But an old fellow like you wants to stop us." As soon as he finished speaking, a burst of aura exploded from his body. The old man's expression turned extremely ugly. Through this aura, he could feel that the other party was at least at the Tongshan realm, and he was only at the 9th level of the defensive profound realm. He wasn't a match for the black-clothed man. He even suspected that the black-clothed man behind the black-clothed man might be stronger than him. There was only one way in front of him. He whispered to Nangong Maching behind him, "Young miss, escape immediately. I will stop them." He knew that he couldn't stop the black-clothed men for long with his strength, but this was the only way. He couldn't count on the other higher martial artists. It would be good if they didn't run away. Moreover, even if all of them attacked together, they wouldn't be able to stop the black-clothed man. "Old fellow, don't talk. Don't think I can't hear what you're saying," the black-clothed man said with contempt. He was not anxious at all, because it was impossible for Nangong Maching to escape from his grasp. She made Maching to escape. This situation didn't allow, she didn't. Senior was destined to sacrifice to her too. He did to ants. And Hey, you want to escape? The black-clothed man sneered and caught up to Nangong Maching in a blink of an eye. But the old man only reacted at this moment. Seeing that the black-clothed man was about to catch the young miss, his eyes were filled with despair. There is an almost insurmountable gap between the Tongxian realm and the defensive profound realm. Chapter 262. Nangong Maching knew that the man had caught up to him, but he was still unwilling to give up. Surrender obediently. The man in black reached out to grab Nangong Maching's wrist, but just as he was about to succeed, a golden light flashed before his eyes. Before he could figure out what was going on with the golden light, he felt a sharp pain in his hand. When he came back to his senses, he realized that there was a bloody hole in his palm. What's going on? The black-clothed man was immediately shocked. He looked around, no longer paying attention to Nangong Maching. The others around him did not know what happened either. They only saw what seemed to be a flash of golden light. The crowd looked around, and soon, their eyes were fixed on an unfamiliar carriage. A man in a black robe walked down from the carriage. "Who are you?" The man in black covered his right hand that was bleeding profusely and asked with a gloomy look. Although a Tongxian realm martial practitioner had strong recovery abilities, it was impossible for him to recover quickly from the bloody hole in his palm. "Get lost if you don't want to die." The man in black was naturally Gu. He could not be bothered to waste time with him. "Sir, you must follow the principle of first come, first served." The man in black did not dare to be as arrogant as before. He felt that the bloody hole in his hand was probably caused by this man in black. What was first come, first served? Ji was baffled by this. "Since you don't understand human language, you can all stay here," Ji said calmly. He could see that these masked men in black were all at LV9 Defensive Profound Realm, or LV1 Tongxian Realm. Even if they all came together, they would not be a match for him. Ding! Master has used Lightning Luster Transformation. Lightning Luster Transformation gained experience. 1000 * 999x. Ding! Master has used Lightning Luster Transformation. Lightning Luster Transformation gained experience. 1000 * 999x. In just a few breaths of time, Jiu had taken care of all of the black-clothed man's companions with the help of the Thunderlight Transformation's high-speed movement and the destructive power of the lightning. The members of the Nangong team were all dumbstruck. The masked black-clothed man who had forced them into a dead end was actually so easily dealt with by the black-robed man who had appeared out of nowhere. But they still did not dare to let their guard down. They did not know whether this powerful man in black was a friend or foe. The only surviving black-clothed man kneeled on the ground with eyes full of disbelief. "Originally, I wanted to kill you directly, but now I have some questions to ask you." Ji walked towards the black-robed man with a calm expression, as if nothing had happened. The man in black's eyes were empty. He did not respond, as if he could not hear anything. Ji grabbed the hair of the man in black and asked, "Who ordered you to capture the eldest daughter of the Nangong family?" Only then did the black-clothed man manage to sober up a little. I don't know." Before the black-clothed man could finish speaking, Jiu grabbed the black-clothed man's hair and lifted him up. "If you don't tell the truth, you will die a horrible death," Jiu threatened coldly. The pain from having his hair pulled made the man in black completely awake. His feet were in the air, making him feel uneasy. He hurriedly said, "I really don't know. I'm just doing this for money." Chapter 263. Then you could die now. Ji could tell that the other party was not lying, so he did not torture him. However, he did not say that he would let the other party go either. After easily dealing with the black-clothed man, Ji slowly walked towards Nangong Maching. "Junior Nangong Maching, thanks Senior for your help." Although he did not know the origin and purpose of the black-robed man in front of him, Nangong Maching still thanked him. When the others saw the black-robed man slowly walking towards them, they were extremely afraid. Who knew if this black-robed man would kill them as well? How could they not be afraid? After all, They did not know this black-robed man at all. At this moment, Ji Yu's mouth raised into a playful smile. He pretended to be low as he said to Nangong Maching, "You are going to Chuyang Ancient City, right?" "Yes." Nangong Maching nodded. "In that case, it's not too much to let me hitch a ride, right?" Ji Yu immediately said, "Of course not." Nangong Maching replied without hesitation. Right now, she had not figured out what this mysterious expert's intentions were, so she could only go along with his wishes. "Senior, please." Nangong Maching's attitude was very humble. Ji Yu silently walked into the carriage. At this moment, the old man from before walked to Nangong Maching with a worried expression and whispered, "Miss, is this really okay? There's no other way now," Nangong Maching said helplessly. Hearing the young Miss's words, the old man did not continue speaking. When the coachman saw that Ji Yu had boarded someone else's carriage, he did not dare to say anything, nor did he dare to move. The strength that Ji Yu had just displayed had scared the coachman silly. Before he understood the situation, he did not dare to act rashly. Only when the Nangong family's carriage continued to move forward did the coachman carefully return to the original path. The carriage team moved normally, but the atmosphere was a little strange. Almost everyone had a nervous and solemn expression on their faces. After all, there was a mysterious expert in the carriage who they didn't know if he was a friend or foe. At the same time, inside the carriage, Nangong Maching sat directly opposite Ji Yu because this was originally her carriage. Nangong Maching seemed to be leisurely pouring tea, but in reality, he was constantly observing the actions of the black-robed man in front of him from the corner of his eyes. "I suggest you not to be half-hearted when you brew the tea. If the tea tastes bad, I might have to kill a few more people for fun." Ji Yu was still using that strange tone. Nangong Maching's pupils couldn't help but tremble slightly as he replied, "Junior understands." She didn't dare to continue paying attention to the black-robed man and concentrated on brewing the tea. She had once heard from her father that many reclusive experts had strange tempers. The slightest careless action could anger these experts. And the black-robed man in front of them was very likely a reclusive expert who happened to pass by here and help them on a whim. But this didn't mean that this mysterious expert would be good to them. If anything went wrong, he might take action against them. Therefore, no matter what, she had to follow the wishes of this mysterious expert in front of her. Seeing Nangong Maching being so obedient, Ji Yu was secretly overjoyed. He had deliberately pretended to be angry just now in order to make Nangong Maching suffer. He still remembered the last time this woman had deliberately obstructed him. This time, it could be considered a small revenge. Chapter 264. When Nangong Maching finished brewing the tea, Ji Yu picked up the teacup and took a sip. Tisk! The black-robed man suddenly made a tisk sound. Nangong Maching's heart tightened, and she began to worry. "Is your tea not sweet enough?" Hearing this, Nangong Maching couldn't help but be stunned. "Sweet?" Coming back to his senses, Nangong Maching hurriedly took a sip. This tea was the Nangong family's best tea leaves. It had a rich, natural fragrance, so it was impossible for it to be so bland that it had no taste. After tasting it, she found that there was nothing wrong with the taste. "If it's not sweet enough, how am I supposed to drink it?" The black-robed man's tone was very dissatisfied. Hearing the other party's tone, Nangong Maching was at a loss. She had brewed this tea with great care, and the taste was very good. However, the other party felt that it was not sweet enough. What should she do? This was the first time Nangong Maching experienced how difficult it was to deal with a mysterious expert with a strange temper. The key was that if this continued, the other party could kill them all at any time. Nangong Maching's fair forehead gradually broke out in cold sweat. She was very anxious, but there was nothing she could do. It was the first time in her life that she felt so uneasy. At this moment, she suddenly saw the black-robed man raise his hand. Her pupils suddenly shrank. Every slight movement of his made her heart beat violently. "Senior, please give me one more chance." Nangong Maching lowered her head and begged. She came up with this idea in a moment of desperation, but this could only buy her some time. Why are you so nervous? It's actually me. Suddenly, a somewhat familiar voice sounded. Nangong Maching was slightly stunned. She felt that she had heard this voice before. She slowly raised her head and found that the mysterious expert in front of her had taken off his black robe. The real face under the black robe was Jiyu. You're Jiyu? Nangong Maching's expression froze as he exclaimed in surprise. That's right, it's me. Jiyu chuckled. He had just admired a very interesting scene and felt that the prank was about done. It was time to stop. Nangong Maching's expression gradually changed and became strange. In other words, you did all that on purpose? Ji nodded calmly and said, I still remember very clearly the time when you deliberately stopped me from searching for the green fireflies. It's not too much for me to play with you now, right? Hearing this, Nangong Maching finally breathed a sigh of relief. His hanging heart also relaxed. No matter what, she no longer had to worry about the safety of herself and this group of people, because she knew very well that if this man in front of her really wanted to make a move, their group would have been wiped out long ago. As for the so-called lack of sweetness, just now, this man was deliberately making things difficult for her. But no matter what, Nangong Maching felt a little uncomfortable after being played by others for such a long time. What a petty man. Nangong Maching rolled her eyes at Jiyu bitterly. If outsiders saw this scene, they would probably think that something indescribable had happened between the two of them. Feeling that the atmosphere was a little strange, Jiyu coughed lightly. If you didn't deliberately go against me, I wouldn't have played with you. This is all your own fault. Chapter 265. Back to the topic. After joking around for a while, Jiyu said seriously, Do you know those masked men in black? No. Nangong Maching shook his head. Maybe the big shot behind them has something to do with our Nangong family. So he sent people to intercept us. All right then. Since he didn't know them, then Jiyu couldn't get any useful information. Just as the topic was about to end, Nangong Maching suddenly said, But it's really weird this time. In the past, we would only be harassed by defensive mystic realm martial artists. But this time, there are so many Tongxian realm martial artists. Although the Nangong family was one of the top families in Bright Moon Ancient City, they were an alchemy family, so their overall martial arts level was slightly lower. Even her father, the head of the Nangong family, and also the strongest martial artist in the Nangong family, had just broken through to level 2 Tongxian realm. In the entire Nangong family, there were no more than 3 Tongxian realm martial artists. This time, the defensive mystic realm martial artist that her father sent to protect her could be ranked in the top 5 in the family. The Nangong family knew that their martial arts strength was weak, so they wouldn't easily provoke other families or forces. Those that they dared to provoke were those that were weaker than them. But this time, there were so many Tongxian realm martial artists that came to intercept them. Obviously, something was wrong. Nangong Maching didn't hide these thoughts in his heart and told them to Jiyu calmly. If you say so, it's really weird. Jiyu's gaze turned slightly serious. The reason why he intentionally left that man in black alive was because he suspected that those masked men in black were sent by the Evolving Temple. Although Nangong Maching wasn't very outstanding in martial arts, he had extraordinary talent in alchemy, so it wasn't strange for him to be the target of the Evolving Temple. But he didn't have enough evidence to deduce that those people were sent by the Evolving Temple. So he asked that man in black, but to no avail. At that time, the other party didn't seem to be lying, but really didn't know who was behind it. After hearing Nangong Maching's inner thoughts, Jiyu believed that the big shot behind the black-clothed people was from the Evolving Temple. Whether it was true or not, as long as there was a possibility, he had to be vigilant. If it was true, the fact that the Evolving Divine Palace could make those Tongxian realm elites work for it without knowing anything meant that it had a terrifying background. If the Evolving Temple could casually invite a profound connection realm expert to work for them, then the strength of the Evolving Temple was truly unimaginable. At this moment, Jiyu felt that the Evolving Temple was like a giant mountain blocking his path. Not to mention Jiang Yuechu, who had long been targeted by the Evolving Temple. He himself was probably in danger as well. Since the Evolving Temple specifically targeted geniuses, his performance in the 3-sex tournament was enough to make him the #1 target of the Evolving Temple. Whether it was for Jiang Yuechu or himself, he had to split this giant mountain in front of him. With a heavy heart, Ji Yu slowly let out a breath to relax, then asked Nangong Maching, "Speaking of which, what are you guys doing in Chaoyang Ancient City? I heard that Chaoyang Ancient City was almost unified by the City Lord's Palace not long ago. So we, the Nangong family, are going to form an alliance." Nangong Maching answered honestly. Chapter 266. Alliance. Ji Yu's eyes flickered slightly. Nangong Maching nodded. The Nangong family was weak, and it was undoubtedly a good choice to ally with the City Lord Mansion of Chaoyang Ancient City. We can form an alliance, as long as the Nangong family pays on time every month. Ji Yu agreed casually. Forming an alliance with the Nangong family would only bring benefits to the City Lord Mansion. Naturally, there was nothing to be conflicted about. Hearing you say that, I remember that you have a good relationship with the City Lord of Chaoyang Ancient City, Jiang Zhongtian. I'll leave it to you then. Nangong Maching said. Ji Yu could tell that Nangong Maching had misunderstood him. He immediately explained, "I forgot to tell you that I am the new City Lord of Chaoyang Ancient City. If I say it's okay, it's okay." It had to be said that the people in Chaoyang Ancient City were quite honest. They did not spread the news casually. Even Nangong Maching did not know that he had become the new City Lord. "You are the new City Lord." Nangong Maching was slightly surprised. However, she soon understood. With Ji Yu's strength, it was easy for him to become the new City Lord of Chaoyang Ancient City. The alliance is settled. Next, come to my City Lord Mansion to sign the agreement. Ji said. After that, there was nothing else to do. Ji put on the black robe again and seized the time to cultivate. He wanted to increase his cultivation as soon as possible. Nangong Maching looked at Ji Yu, who was immersed in cultivation. She did not know what to feel when she thought that Ji Yu had reached such a high level. She once wanted to make Ji Yu her slave, but it was impossible now. The only man in her life that she found interesting, but she could not conquer him. It was really hard for her. Ding! Master has cultivated Martial Dao for 1 minute. Martial Dao cultivation obtained experience, 10 by 999 times. Ding! Master has cultivated Martial Dao for 1 minute. Martial Dao cultivation obtained experience, 10 by 999 times. By the time the carriage arrived at Chaoyang Ancient City, Ji Yu's cultivation base had gradually stabilized. However, she was still far from the peak of LV4 Tongxian realm. After leaving the cultivation state, Ji Yu looked out of the window and found that the guards at the city gate had obviously become much stricter. After all, now that the City Lord's Mansion had unified Chaoyang Ancient City, there were no more open and covert fights in the city. Therefore, they had more energy to strengthen the city gate's defenses. But at this moment, the group of carriages suddenly stopped. What happened? Ji Yu asked in confusion. I guess he was stopped by the guards. Recently, Chaoyang Ancient City has stopped people from entering and leaving as they please. Nangong Maching said. Ji Yu nodded slightly. If it was just a small matter like this, then there was no need for him to show up. After a while, the guards would confirm his identity and let him in. However, the development of the situation greatly exceeded Ji Yu's expectations. Not only did the carriage not move for a long time, but they could also hear the sounds of dispute coming from outside the carriage. We're from Bright Moon Ancient City's Nangong family. We specially came to Chaoyang Ancient City. Why can't we enter? You're from the Nangong family? Must I let you in? At this moment, Nangong Maching also heard the noise coming from outside. She immediately opened the curtain and walked out. What do we have to do to enter the city gate? The leader of the city gate guards was an arrogant young man. When he saw the veiled lady in front of him, he was stunned. Chapter 267. He was the eldest young master of the Zhang family, Zhang Hao. A while ago, the Zhang family also submitted to the city lord's mansion. He didn't care about it. As long as he still had the status and power of the eldest young master of the Zhang family, he didn't care at all. Although he felt a little ashamed to be assigned as the head guard of the city gate this time, it was not without benefits. Zhang Hao set a rule privately that was except for those who belonged to the city lord's mansion, anyone who entered or left the city gate had to be searched. In fact, this was just to satisfy his own selfish desires. Every time a good-looking woman entered or left the city gate, he would deliberately take advantage of her. If he took a fancy to her, he would find a way to get her and throw her away when he was tired of her. In Chaoyang Ancient City, many people knew that Zhang Hao was a lecherous villain, but no one could do anything to him. Because the Zhang family was the only one among the three families that didn't have much conflict with the city lord's mansion, it naturally became a branch with a higher status inside the city lord's mansion. Jiang Zhongtian was busy with trivial matters and couldn't care about it. The other higher-ups of the city lord's mansion were too lazy to care about this kind of thing. Naturally, no one else could control Zhang Hao. Now, Zhang Hao took a fancy to another woman. That was the veiled woman who appeared in front of him at this moment. He had seen countless women in his life, but he had never seen such a strange woman with such beauty and temperament. In his impression, only the two daughters of the city lord, Jiang Yuechu and Jiang Yuexin, could be comparable to this woman, but in terms of temperament, they were slightly inferior to this woman. Zhang Hao didn't have the guts to touch the two daughters of the city lord, but he still had a chance to touch this veiled woman in front of him. "May I ask your name, miss?" Zhang Hao's attitude suddenly changed, and he politely asked Nangong Maching. He was usually obsessed with beauty and didn't know about the family forces outside Chaoyang Ancient City. Naturally, he didn't know about the Nangong family, nor did he know that the Nangong family had a beautiful young lady named Nangong Maching. Nangong Maching. Nangong Maching replied in a cold tone. In fact, she was very reluctant to say her name, because she felt that the other party seemed to be up to something. Although she didn't know what it was, her intuition told her that it shouldn't be something good. "So, it's Miss Mo Qing," Zhang Hao said embarrassedly. "It's like this. Our Chaoyang Ancient City has a rule. Anyone who enters or exits the city has to be searched." Hearing the word search, Nangong Maching couldn't help but frown. Looking at the other party's expression, she felt that this was a very frivolous guy. No matter what this guy was planning, she couldn't let a strange man search her body so easily. "I'll say this first. You can search the others, but I can't," Nangong Maching said directly. Previously, in order not to trouble Jiyu, she deliberately spoke up. However, if this person insisted on making things difficult for her, she would not back down. After all, the new city lord of Chaoyang Ancient City, Jiyu, was sitting in the carriage. She had nothing to worry about. "That won't do." Zhang Hao still maintained his smile, but it gave people a feeling of numbness on their scalps. "If you don't follow the rules, I won't let you enter the city." "Really? Then I'll have to let him talk to you." Nangong Maching glanced at the carriage behind her. "Who is it?" Zhang Hao also looked at the carriage with a puzzled expression. However, after a while, there was no movement in the carriage. The situation became a little awkward. Chapter 268. Nangong Maching was stunned for a moment before she quickly entered the carriage. Seeing that Ji Yu was still sitting in the carriage as if nothing had happened, she couldn't help but ask, "Why are you still sitting here? Why can't I sit here?" Ji Yu said disapprovingly, "Why don't you just let that guy search you? Do you need me to do such a small thing?" "You." Nangong Maching was speechless for a moment. She couldn't understand whether this guy really didn't understand or was deliberately messing with her. Looking at Nangong Maching's hesitant expression, the corners of Ji Yu's mouth curled up slightly. She pretended to be helpless. "I really don't know what to do with you. Forget it, forget it. I'll help you." After that, Ji Yu slowly walked out of the carriage. After Nangong Maching entered the carriage, the one who came out was a black-robed man whose face could not be seen. Zhang Hao immediately frowned. Who are you? You just said that it's the rule of Chaoyang ancient city to search people entering and leaving the city? Ji Yu asked indifferently. Yes, what's wrong? Zhang Hao said. And where's that mismatching? Why didn't I know there was such a rule? Did you make it yourself? Ji Yu said meaningfully. Stop talking nonsense with me. Hurry up and call mismatching out. Zhang Hao was already a little impatient. He was not in the mood to care about this black-robed man at all. Now, he only had Nangong matching in his heart. At this time, many people had been attracted to this place. Damn it, that bastard Zhang Hao is harming others again. Search? Haha, that guy's a beast who specializes in targeting women. Most importantly, this time, it's Nangong matching from the Nangong family. That bastard Zhang Hao actually dares to have improper thoughts. Sigh, but in this situation, those people from the Nangong family can only listen to Zhang Hao if they want to enter the city. Although they were indignant, they only dared to whisper in private. Of course, Zhang Hao knew that the people around him were cursing him, but not only did he not care, he even felt proud of himself. Just as he was feeling complacent, someone suddenly grabbed his neck, and he felt suffocated. When he finally reacted, he discovered that the black-robed man was actually right in front of him. Immediately after, a voice that contained a trace of killing intent sounded. I'm asking you a question. Did you set the rules on your own accord? Zhang Hao was dumbfounded. His throat was strangled to the point of suffocation, so he couldn't utter a single word. He never thought that the black-robed man would suddenly attack him. Only then did the other guards realize what had happened. They hurriedly surrounded the black-robed man who had suddenly made a move. However, they did not dare to rashly take another step forward because they knew that this black-robed man was definitely an expert. Even Zhang Hao didn't have the slightest chance to fight back, so it was even more impossible for them to be this black-robed man's match. Among them, one of Zhang Hao's trusted aides secretly left this place, intending to report what had happened to the Zhang clan's patriarch. In fact, Ji Yu had already noticed that a guard had secretly run away, but he didn't care at all. Do you need me to ask a third time? Ji Yu's voice gradually turned cold. At this time, Zhang Hao finally sobered up a little and understood his current situation. His face turned red as he struggled to spit out a few words. Yes, I set the rules on my own accord. After he finished speaking, Ji Yu let go of his hand. Zhang Hao immediately knelt on the ground, covering his throat and coughing nonstop. Why didn't you say so earlier? Ji Yu helplessly spread out his hands. Then his tone turned cold as he said, but that's a separate matter. How do you think we should deal with this guy who set the rules on his own accord? Who exactly are you? Zhang Hao looked at Ji Yu with a pained expression. Oh, right, I almost forgot. While speaking, Ji Yu's aura fluctuated, and the black robe on his head was directly lifted, revealing his true appearance. You are. Zhang Hao's finger trembled as he pointed at Ji Yu, and his eyes were filled with disbelief. The atmosphere suddenly became suffocating. Not only Zhang Hao, but the others also recognized Ji Yu almost instantly. Now, in the entire Chaoyang ancient city, who didn't know what Ji Yu looked like? Who didn't know Ji Yu's identity? The guards who surrounded Ji Yu by the side threw away the weapons in their hands in shock. They suddenly felt as if they had eaten rice fields, and they felt like dying. If they had known that the black-robed man was the new governor, Ji Yu, they wouldn't have dared to point their weapons at the governor, even if they had 10,000 guts. Governor, Zhang Hao said stiffly. His heart was filled with despair. He couldn't believe that he had offended Ji Yu. Almost everyone in Chaoyang ancient city knew that the new governor, Ji Yu, was terrifyingly powerful. He deserved to be called the most powerful person in Chaoyang ancient city. He had offended such a terrifying existence. Not only him, but the entire Zhang family might be exterminated. So you recognize me, Ji Yu said jokingly. Then what about the question I asked just now? Zhang Hao opened his mouth, but didn't know what to say. His face was extremely ugly. Making rules without permission was already a serious matter. Just as Ji Yu was about to say something, a dignified voice came from not far away. Who's causing trouble here? He heard the voice before he saw the person. It had to be a Tongshin expert. However, Ji was indifferent because he sensed that the person was just a LV2 Tongshin expert. He didn't take him seriously at all. Father. Zhang Hao was delighted at first, but he immediately fell into despair again. So what if his father was here? If his father knew that he had offended Ji, he might even want to kill him. That's right. The owner of the voice just now was the Zhang family, Zhang Quan. When he heard that someone had attacked Zhang Hao, he immediately rushed over. However, just a second ago, Zhang Quan was still acting all high and mighty. When he saw Ji, he was completely stunned. He was completely dumbfounded. Was the one who had a conflict with his son the city lord? What the hell was going on? Based on his understanding of his son, no matter how stupid this bastard was, he wouldn't be stupid enough to offend Ji. Oh, I remember that you're the Zhang family's patriarch. Ji glanced at Zhang Quan indifferently. Do you have any business with me? No, nothing at all. Zhang Quan hurriedly knelt down. In a moment of desperation, he quickly changed his mind. My son was reckless and offended the city lord. I'm here to ask for punishment. He didn't dare to think about anything else now. His entire body was covered in cold sweat. He could only hope that the city lord wouldn't exterminate the entire Zhang family in a fit of anger. Settle your son's matter yourself. As long as you're sincere enough, I won't make things difficult for the Zhang family. Ji looked down at the kneeling Zhang Quan and said indifferently, Chapter 269. Hearing Ji's words, Zhang Quan was overjoyed. Then he said to Zhang Hao, from today onwards, you will be under house arrest for 3 years unless you break through the mystic comprehending state. The more the city lord said that, the more he would not show mercy to his son. Zhang Hao's face was numb. Only despair and regret were left in his eyes. 3 years of house arrest was as painful as killing him. Get lost. Ji nodded with satisfaction and did not continue to make things difficult for the Zhang family's father and son. This time, he was not only helping Nangong Maching. More importantly, he wanted to establish his prestige. In the future, no one would dare to do what Zhang Hao did. This would save him a lot of trouble. Zhang Quan didn't dare to complain and quickly left with Zhang Hao. Only the guards were left standing in the field, not knowing what to do. Everyone looked at him with respect and admiration. Only the city lord could make the Zhang family's father and son obediently admit defeat. They were all happy to see Zhang Hao being punished. Ji ignored the guards and returned to the carriage. At this time, the people from the Nangong family had not recovered from the shock. The black-robed man was the famous Ji. Moreover, they did not know when Ji became the new city lord of Chaoyang Ancient City. Shall we go? Ji said to Nangong Maching in the carriage. Yes, Nangong Maching nodded slightly. Even though she knew Ji was very powerful, she still could not calm down after seeing it with her own eyes. The young man in front of her was already an invincible existence in Chaoyang Ancient City. The Nangong family's carriage team continued to move forward. The surrounding people made a wide path for them. This was because they knew that the city lord was sitting in the carriage. Soon, the carriage team arrived at the city lord mansion. Immediately, the elite guards guarding the gate of the city lord mansion came to stop them. Just as they were about to speak, they saw a black-robed man coming out of the carriage. When they saw the face of the black-robed man clearly, they immediately knelt down on one knee. Greetings to the city lord. They were all elite guards of the city lord's mansion, so it was impossible for them not to recognize this black-robed youth in front of them. Rise, all of you, Ji said. Yes. The elite guards immediately stood up and made way for the carriage. The carriage team then drove into the city lord's mansion. In the meeting hall, Jiang Zhongtian, Ji and Nangong Maching were already present. The rest of the people were waiting outside the hall. This is Jiang Zhongtian didn't know the purpose of Nangong Maching's visit. He only knew that Nangong Maching came with Ji. Ji purposely came back with Nangong Maching. He could not help but have a guess in his mind. Could it be that Ji and Miss Nangong are together? Jiang Zhongtian couldn't help but ask. No, Ji calmly denied Jiang Zhongtian's guess and briefly summarized the ins and outs of the matter. At the same time, Nangong Maching, who was sitting at the side, couldn't help but have a slight trace of disappointment in his eyes. Even if there was a trace of fluctuation, Ji Yu's expression was terrifyingly calm. I see. At this time, Jiang Zhongtian heard Ji Yu's words and turned to Nangong Maching. Since Ji Yu has already agreed, then there's no problem. He could only be considered as the acting city lord now. The real authority was still in Ji Yu's hands. After signing a contract, the Nangong family officially allied with the city lord's mansion in Chaoyang City. The Nangong family had to follow the rules and pay tribute on time, while the city lord's mansion would protect the Nangong family. In short, the relationship between the two was like this. Nangong Maching didn't stay at the city lord's mansion for too long. The next day, he returned to Bright Moon Ancient City with the carriage team. Ji Yu also had to start dealing with his own matters. He purposely came back this time mainly to reorganize the city lord's mansion and strengthen the overall strength of the city lord's mansion. Before he left the city lord's mansion, there were a few more families that submitted to the city lord's mansion. Now, almost the entire Chaoyang City was unified. The Nangong family was the first outside family to ally with the city lord's mansion. Presumably, there would be other outside families coming to ally with them soon. However, Ji Yu couldn't just casually ally with any outside family. After all, this was the territory of the Kanglan Empire. Everything was under the control of the palace. Perhaps it was because of Ji Yu that the imperial palace did not say anything when Chaoyang Ancient City formed an alliance. However, if they continued to expand, the palace couldn't just sit by and watch. Ji Yu didn't want to be enemies with the palace. His goal was never to overthrow the palace. To put it bluntly, he wasn't interested in the throne of the Kanglan Empire. His only goal now was to resist the Evolution Temple. After spending a few days, Ji Yu dealt with many people who liked to court death like Zhang Hao. Those who should be locked up are locked up, and those who should be killed were killed. As long as they committed a crime in Chaoyang City, he wouldn't let them go once he found them. This wave of swift and decisive sweeps alerted everyone in Chaoyang City. No one dared to act rashly because they could lose their heads at any time. Even if they didn't lose their heads, they didn't want to be targeted by the city lord. That feeling of sleepless nights was too unbearable. Of course, Ji Yu didn't neglect his cultivation during these few days. Naturally, he broke through to the peak of level 4 Tongxian realm. Today, Ji Yu strolled around the streets as usual. He was still dressed in a black robe. Although most people in Chaoyang City knew that Ji Yu always dressed like this, Ji Yu wasn't afraid of being recognized because more and more people were wearing black robes in Chaoyang City. After walking for a short distance, he saw a few people dressed in black robes like him. It was obvious that they were all teenagers in their second year of middle school. Ding! Master has taken a step. Earth rank inferior thunder light transformation gained experience points. Won by 999 times. Ding! Master has taken a step. Earth rank inferior thunder light transformation gained experience points. Won by 999 times. Not long after, Ji Yu happened to pass by a residence. He looked up and saw that it was the Fong residence. He planned to go in and take a look. Ji Yu strolled into the Fong residence. Although he seemed to be walking slowly, outsiders wouldn't be able to see his figure clearly. Even though the guards guarding the entrance were highly focused, they didn't notice that someone had entered the Fong residence. It didn't take long for him to walk around the Fong family's mansion. At this time, Ji Yu came to a martial arts field. This should be the field that the Fong residence specially provided for disciples to cultivate. He could see many young men and women practicing martial arts here. Not only that, he also saw a familiar figure. Chapter 270. On the training field, a heroic young lady in red armor was dancing with a thin sword, ignoring the rain of sweat that was pouring down her body. The Fong family disciples who passed by were all talking about this. Look, I see Fong Junyi every time I pass by here. Is she cultivating here day and night? Yeah, she seems to be trying to take revenge on Ji Yu. I don't know why she's doing this. Ji Yu didn't do anything to us. And with Ji Yu's terrifying talent and strength, Fang Junyi won't be able to catch up to her even if she works hard for her entire life. Even though the Fang family had submitted to the city lord manor, everything was as usual. There were not many changes. So they didn't care about it anymore and didn't hate the new city lord Ji Yu. Only Fang Junyi was different. She still couldn't forget Ji Yu's mocking tone and expression. She cultivated so hard just to kill Ji Yu with her own hands. It's been so long, but you don't seem to have improved much. Suddenly, Fang Junyi heard a familiar voice. Before she could remember whose voice it was, her face darkened. Fang Junyi turned around and saw a black-robed person walking towards her. She couldn't see the black-robed person's face, but she was sure that this black-robed person was Ji Yu. "What are you doing here again?" Fang Junyi didn't want to be outdone and said coldly, "I'm here because I want to. Is there a problem?" Ji Yu said indifferently. The surrounding Fang family disciples didn't know that the black-robed person was Ji Yu, so they didn't understand what the two of them were talking about. Fang Junyi stared at Ji Yu fiercely. She gripped her sword tightly and didn't dare to act rashly. She knew her limits. If she were to face Ji Yu in her current state, there was no way she would survive. "Why are you so nervous?" Ji Yu chuckled and said, "But I want that look in your eyes." At this moment, Fang Junyi was like him when he had faced Xinyan. Fang Junyi was the only one who didn't submit to him. Although this guy was working hard to kill him, he still thought highly of this guy, because he didn't think that this woman had the chance to surpass him or even kill him, not in this lifetime. "I don't know what he's talking about," Fang Junyi said coldly. "But you can't do this. You've only improved so much after so long. You still want to kill me?" Ji Yu said contemptuously. He remembered that when he first met this woman, her cultivation was at mid-stage first level of the defensive profound realm. Until now, she had only reached late-stage second level of the defensive profound realm. "You!" Fang Junyi was so angry that her delicate body trembled, and her towering chest heaved up and down. All her hard work had been denied by Ji Yu just like that. The surrounding Fang clan disciples all felt that it was extremely strange. Who exactly was that black-robed man? He actually said that Fang Junyi was no good. Although they felt that Fang Junyi was very foolish to want to kill the new city lord, but that was that. They admitted that they were far inferior to Fang Junyi in terms of talent and hard work. In just half a month, Fang Junyi had cultivated from mid-stage first level of the defensive profound realm to late-stage second level of the defensive profound realm. None of them didn't admire her. But that black-robed man actually said that Fang Junyi was no good. They only wanted to know who this black-robed man was, and why he dared to boast so shamelessly. "Let me ask you, do you want to improve your strength faster and more effectively?" At this moment, Ji Yu suddenly asked. Fang Junyi hesitated for a moment, then answered firmly, "Yes." How could she not want to? "All right, then I'll help you." Before she finished speaking, Ji Yu's figure had already disappeared. Ding! Master has used Lightning Luster Change. Lightning Luster Change obtained experience points. 1000 999x. Ji Yu carried Fang Junyi on her shoulder and dashed out. Because Ji Yu's speed was too fast, Fang Junyi only reacted when they were already out of the Fang manor. "What are you doing? Let go of me." Fang Junyi struggled fiercely. "Don't move," Ji Yu warned. "Let go of me." But Fang Junyi didn't listen and continued to struggle, almost hitting Ji Yu's face a few times. This, Ji Yu was instantly enraged and slapped Fang Junyi's buttocks. Slap, soft and bouncy to the touch, Ji Yu couldn't help but be stunned. Damn it. Ji Yu only wanted to teach this disobedient girl a lesson, but she didn't expect her body to be so hot. Fang Junyi couldn't help but cry out when she was hit by that strong slap. But before she could react, she heard Ji Yu's threatening voice. "If you dare to move again, do you believe that I won't smack your butt?" Fang Junyi immediately calmed down, and her face was filled with shame and anger. Ever since she was young, she had never been touched by a man. "I'll kill you. I'll definitely kill you." Fang Junyi was extremely ashamed and resentful. She gritted her teeth and thought to herself. Fang Junyi finally stopped moving and Jiyu also stopped being rough and walked in a certain direction. On the other side, the disciples of the Fong family finally realized what had happened. Why did Fong Junyi and that black-robed man disappear? I think I saw that black-robed man take Fong Junyi away. His movements were too fast, I couldn't see it clearly. F***CK, that black-robed man couldn't be Jiyu, right? Many people felt that the black-robed man was Jiyu. Only Jiyu could have that kind of skill. Recalling Fong Junyi's expression, they were even more certain that the black-robed man was Jiyu. They couldn't help but worry for Fong Junyi. Now that she was taken away by Jiyu, she might never come back. At the same time, ding! Master used lightning luster transformation. Lightning luster transformation gained experience. 1000 by 999 times. Ding! Master used lightning luster transformation. Lightning luster transformation gained experience. 1000 by 999 times. Jiyu was like a bolt of lightning, shuttling through Chaoyang Ancient City. Not long after, he left Chaoyang Ancient City and arrived at the Demon Beast Mountain Range. Fong Junyi, who was carried on Jiyu's shoulder, didn't say a word because she was shocked. After a short period of personal experience, she finally realized how terrifying Jiyu's speed was. This was just his speed. It was hard to imagine how strong he was in other aspects. Her heart couldn't help but waver. Did she really have a chance to kill this monster with her own hands? However, Fong Junyi immediately shook her head. No matter what, she couldn't give up so easily. Not only was she mocked by Jiyu, but Jiyu also touched that place. As long as she was still alive, she would definitely find this bastard and settle the score. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.